Now, for non-individuals, the companies, the retirement benefit schemes and the like, the formula is a little different.
How is it?
For non-individuals, we look at their gross rental income and then we allow them up to 50% of that gross rental income to cater for expenses that have been incurred in generating this income. And then the difference of 50% is taxed at a rate of 30%.
30% of the 50%?
Of the 50%.
Don't you think it is kind of like unfair? Because we've had landlords at times when they're complaining, tenants don't pay, tenants run out of their buildings, and here as URA, you are estimating that everyone, like every tenant, pays their rent on time.
Yeah, now, the effects of premises being vacant are taken care of in arriving at what I call the gross rental income. If I can give an example, if you can allow me to give a computational example of, let's say, someone who has rental units in Banda. They have 5 units, and from each unit, they charge rent of 500,000 per month. So if these units are fully occupied throughout the 12 months period, it means that every month they're generating 2.5 million from the 5 units, and in a year they will have generated 2.5 times 12, which is 30 million. Okay?
Yeah,
that's 30 million. So that's the gross rental income. But there are instances where some of the units are not occupied during that 12 months period. Now, that will be taken into account in arriving at the gross rental income. So if, for instance, one of the units was occupied for only 6 months, we will get the 500,000 times 12 for the 4 units, and then for this 5th unit that was occupied for only 6 months, the gross rental income from it will be the 500,000 times only 6 months. So you'll find that the gross rental income for a landlord whose units are not fully occupied will be lower.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Now, just for a layman that is out there and does not know how to do this, how can a landlord genuinely declare what they earn from their property? Please, you can talk.
The starting point, viewers and landlords out there, is by registering for taxes with the Uganda Revenue Authority. To be registered for taxes means you obtain what we call a tax identification number, commonly known as a TIN number. So if you are a landlord, you have a TIN number with a clear indication that your source of income is rental income. The next step after registration is filing of the return, where you're supposed to go to our URA web portal and then enter the details of the income that you earned. Fortunately, this declaration form has been simplified. It's now web-based, and the computations of tax are automatically done for you. So as a landlord, particularly the individuals, all you need to do is have your exercise book maybe somewhere where you indicate how much you're earning on a monthly basis, which eventually will be translated into annual. Then you make the declaration of your gross annual rental income, and then the tax-free threshold of 2820 will be reduced. It's automatically computed in the web-based form that is provided on the URA web portal, and the applicable tax of 12% is also automatically applied. So as you submit, there will be a clear indication of the tax that has been generated from the gross rental income that you have declared in the web-based form.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
If your gross annual rental income is below 2,820,000 and you are an individual, then you are not required to pay rental income tax. However, if your rental gross income exceeds 2,820,000, the rental income tax that you pay is at a rate of 12% on the difference between your gross rental income and the tax-free threshold of Uganda shillings 2,820,000.
Uganda.
Now, for non-individuals, the companies, the retirement benefit schemes and the like, the formula is a little different.
How is it?
For non-individuals, we look at their gross rental income and then we allow them up to 50% of that gross rental income to cater for expenses that have been incurred in generating this income. And then the difference of 50% is taxed at a rate of 30%.
30% of the 50%.
Of the 50%.
Don't you think it is kind of like unfair? Because we've had landlords at times when they're complaining, tenants don't pay, tenants run out of their buildings, and here as URA, you are estimating that everyone, like every tenant, pays their rent on time.
Yeah. Now, the effects of premises being vacant are taken care of in arriving at what I call the gross rental income. If I can give an example, if you can allow me to give a computational example of, let's say, someone who has rental units in Banda. They have 5 units, and from each unit, they charge rent of 500,000 per month. So if these units are fully occupied throughout the 12 months period, it means that every month they're generating 2.5 million from the 5 units, and in a year they will have generated 2.5 times 12, which is 30 million. Okay?
Yeah,
that's 30 million. So that's the gross rental income. But there are instances where some of the units are not occupied during that 12 months period. Now, that will be taken into account in arriving at the gross rental income. So if, for instance, one of the units was occupied for only 6 months, we will get the 500,000 times 12 for the 4 units, and then for this 5th unit that was occupied for only 6 months, the gross rental income from it will be the 500,000 times only 6 months. So you'll find that the gross rental income for a landlord whose units are not fully occupied will be lower.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Now, just for a layman that is out there and does not know how to do this, how can a landlord genuinely declare what they earn from their property? Please, you can tell me.
The starting point, viewers and landlords out there, is by registering for taxes with the Uganda Revenue Authority. To be registered for taxes means you obtain what we call a tax identification number, commonly known as a TIN number. So if you are a landlord, you have a TIN number with a clear indication that your source of income is rental income. The next step after registration is filing of the return, where you're supposed to go to our URL web portal and then enter the details of the income that you earned. Fortunately, this declaration form has been simplified. It's now web-based, and the computations of tax are automatically done for you. So as a landlord, particularly the individuals, all you need to do is have your exercise book maybe somewhere where you indicate how much you're earning on a monthly basis, which eventually will be translated into annual. Then you make the declaration of your gross annual rental income, and then the tax-free threshold of 2820 will be reduced. It's automatically computed in the web-based form that is provided on the URL web portal, and the applicable tax of 12% is also automatically applied. So as you submit, there will be a clear indication of the tax that has been generated from the gross rental income that you have declared in the web-based form.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
If your gross annual rental income is below 2,820,000 and you are an individual, then you are not required to pay rental income tax. However, if your rental gross income exceeds 2,820,000, the rental income tax that you pay is at a rate of 12% on the difference between your gross rental income and the tax-free threshold of Uganda shillings 2,820,000.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Because we've seen also other people having their rentals as a side business when they're earning when they may be employed in other offices, but they have a team. So how does that work? They get every source of income that they generate from different avenues declared here, right?
A very good question. I have seen confusion. Yes, our dear clients sometimes think that if you have different sources of income. You're supposed to have maybe more than one tin. I have seen people who are formally employed who get tins for that purpose, and then maybe later, through their savings, they build some rentals, and then they begin to believe that maybe they're supposed to get another tin. Friends, a tin is a unique identifier for a taxpayer, and it is issued once. So no single taxpayer should have more than one tin. The difference here is that if you're earning, let's say, employment income, if you're formally employed like myself, and then you also have rentals, there will just be an indication on your tin that you are an employee of URA, you're an employee of Vision Group, but you also have another source of income, which is rental. Now, the obligations for these different sources of income differ. If you're an employee, the tax as an employee is paid through what we call the pay as you earn. You know, those 30% that are deducted at source by your employer. So as an employee, you have no further obligation on that. However, if you have rental, the obligation that I shared earlier in terms of filing of the return and payment of the resultant tax squarely lies with you.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
The system of payment of taxes that we run is what we call a self-declaration system or a self-declaration regime. So the landlord is expected to make these declarations themselves at the end of the year, clearly indicating the rental income that they have earned or generated during that year of income. Okay? If you remember, in one of our initiatives, I talked about compliance reviews, checking the declarations that the taxpayer has made. We know that sometimes these declarations are made dishonestly, so that's where we go.
That process, give a microphone to some people, have my So ladies and gentlemen, as we wait to officially kick off, I would like to invite us to be able to give some questions that would you feel there is mandatory response that is required for them. We are going to note them down and we shall have them before the Commissioner General so that he goes through those before we hear the stories of our life. I would like Jojo, you get ready to rapporteur with these questions, nice handwriting, so that our team leader is able to read them. Mr. Masembe is not yet here. Mr. Masembe is not here. Elizabeth, are you able to hear if somebody spoke in Luganda? Excellent. So help Jojo to rapporteur on this session and let us kick it off in that regard. Ladies and gentlemen, Ibrahim Bossa is my name. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for Public and Corporate Affairs here at the Uganda Revenue Authority, and I will be moderating this session. Nze avunanyizibwako okwanyaganya omuntu wa bulijjo n'ekitongole ekya Uganda Revenue Authority. Era nga kaseera kati mbalina tukozese by raise of hand, njagala nkuwa akazindaalo obeeye ekibuuzo kimu bibiri ky'obuuza tukiteeke wansi nga tugenda bikwasa Commissioner General okubaga ku budde. If I may begin, I will need some microphones this side. Genda line ku line so that we can exhaust. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is it okay if I can kindly ask that you stand? Abantu bakulabe ani abuuza, and maybe you just mention your name. Abantu bategera ani ayogera nabo. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To me, I am Daniel, but I needed a great clarification on what rental income is. For instance, in case somebody is having a hall and a wedding ceremony is taking place in that hall, how will I treat that in my accounts? In case I have land whereby a mask is being utilized in that thing, how will it be treated? Thank you.
Very good question.
Thank you very much. I'm called Romano Kagawa. I live in Kabo. My question is, we have been receiving bills on our phones. I would like to know how was this assessment done, because I have never seen an officer at my premises, but I see assessment posted. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Kasato Noah from Lubaga. We've been invited here for today's meeting. Kindly, could we be given the gist of the meeting?
And the agenda. What is the agenda?
We okay here? I have some hands. Yes, please.
Mangen Wycliffe from Busia. What irritates me is the method URA applies when it is chasing the smugglers from Kenya. And these smugglers at times run into markets. And these brothers of ours start releasing bullets. You are aware a bullet cannot make a corner to follow the exact fellow. So these bullets at times hit people who are not connected in the issues. Can't there be any other method that can be applied, maybe to curb this narrative? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kali, mangunga sinagendere.
Sebo mukulu atwaniriza nkulamusiza ne betuli nabo. Amanya gange nze na Kisozaale ni Muyomba, nvudde Makindye Bukasa Parish. Mu mbeera yonna sitegedde nga bannange bwe bali. Lwaki? Yes, nina bangambyeko bibadde ku leediyo, mbadde mu kufiirwa bwe ntyo, naye ndi mukulembeze okumala ebbanga. Muweereza message eziwera ku ssimu yange buli lwe nsasula Makindye property rent nga ndaba message ya revenue ne ngamba oba banneebaza bwebaza ate siziwadde bo, sibitegeera kuba tubadde nga tusasula temutusomesangako oba balamu abasomesaako simanyi. Kaakati bwe nkubira ku bannange nkugambye ndi mukulembeze, abaayi nfunye message bweti mami ffe nga tetunnagifuna bangi nnyo naye nze ennyumba eriko obuzigo bubiri, akamu kali one room, ako ntono nnyo mugendamu na just kitanda, akokubiri ekisenge n'eddiiro. Kakati bwe mbuza ku banne oli mami nga ffe tetunnakifuna sempalish se kati simanyi buzibu ki. Bwe kibanga mwagala misolo lwaki abamu tebafuna message ezo? Obuzibu bwammwe temutuuka ku ground. Bwe muba muze ku ground munoonye ababayambako. Kisugu ne Wabigalo ze zimu ku parish ezinninaanya. Kati olw'okuba message nagifuna ndi mu kufiirwa nakubira kubamu bakulembeze bannange, abaayi nfunye message bweti mami ewaffe nga tebiriyo mbadde sinnakifuna, which means ndooza mulinako abamu abatannafuna emisolo twagala oggiwa naye munoonye bwe mukikola mu buntu. Webale nnyo ssebo, twagala ffenna tugasibwe. Mukama abakungu.
Tweyanziza nnyo, tweyanzeege. Nkulu Ntale tusinza okulaba. Yes.
The Vampta Amos Bahirwa from Ntungamo. My question is about the deductions of 2.82 million, which is a constant. Nawaka income katono, checho. Nawaka income kanene is the same. Why can't you also make it variable? Either you make it a percentage, like the deductions is like 10% for each one and for each level of income. But putting a fixed figure of 2.8 is unfair.
Next. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for giving this microphone. My name, I'm called Baron Florence. My house is located in Mbukoto UCB zone. Yeah, when I went to Kanaka on the other side, I didn't know what a TIN number means. The lady asked me, we are going to give a TIN number. I said, fine. Then she asked me, which income do you have? I said, my house. Then I had this small kaduka kuchikomera, where just a small shop. That is 10 years ago. But now I shifted to Akiso, but the house is still there. My question is, first, I want to know the difference between KCCA and URA. Because when I pay KCCA, you remain return your income tax. Which income tax am I supposed to return? Because I always pay KCCA. So I don't know what it means, URA and KCCA. Akaduka, I shifted that place 10 years ago, because I wanted to rent the house. Partly is rented, main house, boys' quarters, now you keep on demand. Even I went to KCCA in 2018 in Bagamba. They authorized me that boys' quarter to be occupied by my children. Now you keep on demanding the man should pay, so I don't know that. Yeah, KCCA between URA and KCCA, I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My name is Sait Ronald. I'm within Nakawa. My concern comes as a proposal, mainly for the lower people. Can't we combine the two so that we collect it once, the property and rental, so that at least people are willing to pay? But that pressure, mainly for the lower income people who have small houses, you find that he has no job, and that small thing, that's where he gets his income. Check. That's my concern, sir.
Esi waliwo alina ekibuuzo wano wabweru mu tenti, waliwo ali mu tenti, muwadde microphone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Martha Nwagaba. I'm a landlord on one side, but I'm also here as an accountant, out of office accountant. I have very many questions, but one main one that is a bit disturbing for most of the people that I help in filing returns is the fact that when we are being handled, for example, those that have issues of 7, 8, 10 years, when it's even being handled here at Nakawa, they keep receiving a lot of threatening letters from their respective. For example, one of them is in Lunguja, and her office is definitely Ndeba. So Ndeba sends us to Nakawa, and it's being handled, and they're going through and reconciling. And then we keep receiving letters from Ndeba. And it's a bit, I think for most of the landlords, yes, they might have built, but they might not be to that level of understanding. When they receive some of these letters, it's not very palatable. Is there a way when something is being handled in Nakawa, the other office where they fall be informed so that the landlords at the ground are not receiving letters continuously and assessments and interest, because it's already being handled. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Wow. Threatening letters, additional assessments, penalties. To be Ulira. Where's Pade? Where's Mr. Pade? Ocheng? Where's Mr. Pade? I hope he's listening to this. I had somebody out there with a mic. Let's go. Have it.
Check. Okay, he's right here.
Okay, let's go for it.
Kajogere Luganda Doza. Amanya ze Kamyadan, Mvabukoto, More Muzon. Revenue mwagala tusasula omusolo era tugusasula. Ne ground rent tugisasula mu State Council. Naye mmwe temukimanyiiko nti abantu betupangisa ate amayumba mwe tujja omusolo gwe tubasasula batulyaza amaanya ne bagenda ne ssente zaffe empitirivu. Poliisi yammwe tetuyamba. Poliisi eri ku sayidi ya mupangisa. Ffe batunyagira ddala ssente nnyingi, gw'oyinza okuwulira nti oli bamunyazeko miliyoni 15, miliyoni 2 ne mulaba ng'ekitono ku revenue. Naye ffe kiba kitututteko kinene nnyo. Agenda kuva mu nyumba ng'olina okuddamu okugirongoosa naye yagenze. Tetulina buyambi bwonna bwe tuddukira. Poliisi tetuyambirako ddala. Poliisi eyagala nnyo omupangisa alyazaamaanyiza. Mwe mugenda kutuyamba ki? Ffe nammwe tusasula omusolo gwammwe.
Thank you. Tweyanziza nnyo tweyanzeege. Eyo point bagikubidde ne mu ngalo ekitegeeza nti nno ngazi. Tulinayo omu nga tetunadda munda wabweru awo.
Yeah, wali.
Okay, let's go for it.
Amanya agange Haji Kasimu Kasasa, ndi mutuuze wa Mbuya. Revenue mulemedde okuŋŋaanya omusolo ekisooka mwewulira. Be mugenda okujja temusobola kukwatagana n'abantu ba kasitoma abalina obbawa ssente. Muli bakambwe ennyo, yunifoomu gye mwambala etiisatiisa, naye musobole muteekewo enkolegana eyinza okukwatagana n'abantu ba bulijjo. Kuba abantu ba bulijjo ffe twagala okusasula omusolo. Naye ozimba ennyumba wiiki emu, mwezi, ne bajja kuteekako ssente biru empitirivu. Lwaki mutukola bubi ne muteekawo ssente nga ffe situmanyi muzigereka mutya? Mutufunemu emikwano tusobole okuŋŋaanya ssente ezo. Naye bwe munaba temufunye mukwano, revenue ejja kwongera okugwa olw'okubanga temuli kwatagana n'abantu ba bulijjo.
Let's see. There's a lady.
Tweyanza nnyo tweyanzege. So tufune omukyala tulyoke tuyingire munda.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. My name is Gertrude Knight. I have 2 points. One, if you do give training on filing returns so that it can help us small business people.
Have solid.
The second point is if you could please do reconciliations automatically, like when someone files final returns, because there is a time I got a bill after like 3 years saying that there is an amount I didn't pay and interest has been accumulating. If you could please do reconciliations every year or every quarter and communicate to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ogenda kwogerera wano newala muzinda. Okay. No. Kwata.
Balamusiza nnyo bannange mwenna abali wano neyanziza n'omukisa guno. Kati ekyange ndi mbuuza ku kya omuntu waba alina okusasula omusolo ku URA kuba naye mba nefunanga messages ezo. Muba aba alina kuba nga ava ku rent ya ssente mmeka kale omwaka z'aba asasula. Mulyoke mugende nti ono aba asaanira ono aba tasaanira. Kubanze mbadde nga nzifuna nga nkuba n'essimu oluusi ku mukozi omu n'agamba bwe banzi ssente bwezi oba tolina kukola kikusasula naye ate nga bagamba olina okufayiringa simanyi whatever. Kati bwe mba nga ssente ezo ntono teziwera na mitwalo 10 omuntu zasasula kuba yali ennyumba ya muzeeyi yagindekera nendekamu omuntu ng'afunye wange ndi mukono ko kalina masuba. Simanyi nani yawaayo namba yange kumpi ng'alinga gwe nasenzaamu obusenze obusente bwasasula emitwalo 6 si kyakume waka tebakatwala naye nfuna message ezinyina okusasula ssente omwaka giringa 7,200 gy'abasasula kati muba musinziira ku kyo gwa nti ono alina okusasula ssente ku URA if not nga batalina kusasula okusinziira bwemba mukibaze this filing simanyi filing ngikola ntya simanyi first time I'm not aware.
Tweyanza nnyo ekibuzo kirungi nnyo ekyo otandikira wa ofiling otya ese mukama wange
sebo neyanziza okutuyita but my concern nga mututadde wamu ffenna mpulirayo ab'omuzigo mulimu aba commercial buildings mpuliddemu ab'e Nakawa mpulira ab'e Kabowa mpulira ab'e Lukungiri administratively nze is disturbing me simanyi oba I'm in the right place. Ekyokubiri, can we share a link, a Zoom link that we can, some of us exit and attend virtually? Naye senga mutaddemu classes n'ogamba smaller payment mujje ku Tuesday abalina we bati mujje ku Wednesday naye kati abalina moolo tuli nabo wano.
Thank you very much. Oteseza bulungi nnyo. Ojja kufuna okuddibwamu. Ani alina akazindaalo?
Good afternoon, everyone. Mwanik Emmanuel is my name. I'm almost sharing the same idea like he does.
Okay, be careful not to repeat because we have people who need an opportunity. Thank you.
My suggestion is, why would you invite everyone in this place? You can do compliance clinics in different regions. Yeah? We don't need all to come here. Maybe you can say, Makindye, we are doing this day. Rubaga, we are doing this day. Move out of the URA building here. Let's have compliance clinic besides this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I could want the microphone this side. There's a gentleman with the red sleeves, that one. Yes.
Asebole banyabo zanyise nnyo okubalabako n'abakulu abatusembesa aba revenue. Amannya agange bitibwa Tenywa Edward okuva ekkulambiro Tuba. Ng'ensonga yange eri ku valuation ey'amayumba. Amayumba tubeebaza olw'okubeera nti gaakerekebwa olw'okuba nti omusolo guli waggulu nga tubasaba okutukendeereza ku musolo naffe tusobole okubaako n'ebitambula kusinziira ku ekonomi n'embeera weeri. Tusaba ekintu ekyo kituyambeko ng'abakitwala. Nsigadde ndi mannya Tenywa Edward okuva ekkulambiro Tuba.
Tusiimye nnyo mukulu Tenywa. Webale nnyo. Kanfuneyo omu wano, then nzije mabegaawo. Ennyabo.
Ssebo neeyanziza omulukisa guno. Mbalamusiza ba landlord, ba landladies. Ekibuuzo ekyange kiri nti ogenda n'ofuna messages okuva mu URA ng'ekubanja ng'oluusi somebody yakozesa tiini namba yo n'ateekako ebintu ebitali bibyo. N'ogenda mu revenue n'obuulira owa revenue, how do I go about this? Owa revenue n'atukugamba nti no, olimba by'oyogera kiki, naye tukiyitamu tutya ekintu ng'ekyo kubanga n'amasimu agabeerako okuba essimu tewali akwata simu yo, kyekizibu ekyo kye tulina ssebo. Neeyanziza nnyo.
Tweyanza nnyo tweyanzege. Yes, Wilgers. Good.
Ssebo amannya gange nze Charles Lwanga
Ekibuuzo kyange is about the law. Kankuwe scenario senga omuntu ojja n'okozesa $1 million 2 n'ogula ettaka n'okozesa $1 million 4 ne weewoola n'ozimba ekizimbe. $1 million ezo ennya z'oweewoze osasulako interest. Katugambe nti omwaka okollectinze $5 million, but out of that collection osasula $4.45 million interest ku loan. $4.45 million interest ku loan ebeera expense. Kati bwe ntuuka ku end of year n'oŋŋamba expenses zo tezijja ku exceedinga 50% allowable. Kitegeeza nti ekizimbe kyange bwe mba sisasudde interest, essente zonna ze nkollectinze ne zisasula mu interest ate ogenda zinsaba mu musolo. Kakati bwe tuba tukola bwe tutyo economy tunaagiteekamu tutya ebizimbe ebirala, tax base egaziwe. Nze ndowooza etteeka eryo lirina okubeera revised. Expenses ze incurrinze to produce income should be allowable. There is no logic for you to say you have spent this money collecting, making the income, but then those expenses are not allowable. There is no logic at all, even in tax principles. That law must be revised to allow the economy to grow, to allow the tax base to expand. Otherwise, that is very exploitative. It is against the interests of expanding the tax base and against the interests of what you are doing. Thank you so much.
What are the names again? Names again?
My names are Charles Ruanga Kunte.
Thank you.
Yes,
good afternoon. My name is Frederick Luze. I have a question or two, but my concern is given the digital gap. I know URA is now very advanced in terms of using internet, but the people you are dealing with, especially the smaller landlords, are not internet literate. And my concern is on the filing of returns. Why don't you just assess a small landlord and I know what is due from me and I just pay that? I think we are struggling when it comes to filing returns. The second question is, we really want to pay taxes. I know it may not be your obligation as you are a, but as we collect this money sacrificially, I don't know if there is a voice you can also pass on to those who are spending the money. And the stories we hear of the high levels of corruption and leakage of public resources, this discourages us from paying taxes.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
My name
Where are we?
is...
Okay, thank you.
My name is Nsereko Mtumba. One, URA sent me a text nga baŋŋamba maze emyaka 5 sasula musolo naye nga mulimu emyaka 2 egya covid abantu bagenda tebatuwadde ki sente naye URA tesobola kiteeka mu consideration yo kyesinga okwagala eyagala ki twagala tubeere beerufu nze ndi mukulembeze e Lubaga naye abantu batutuma ne batugamba sebo omusolo ogwa covid ogw'emyaka 2 tukusasula tutya nga abantu bagenda tebasasudde. Ekyo ekisooka. Ekyokubiri, URA teyagala kukozesa community engagements. Tosobola kuyita wano district ziringa 5 oba otuyise otubuulira obubuulizi ng'ate twagala tubeere ne intersection nga twogera bwe mwogera. Tulina ensonga ezituluma, tosobola kujja buzigwe n'olambika musolo. Nze nga ndi mu KCC twawandikira aba KCC ne bajja ne basomesa abantu era abantu basasudde property rates. Naye kati omuntu tayawula wakati wa KCC property rates ne URA income tax. Kati kituwa obuzibu omuntu omulaba ajja kujja gambe lwaki onyongeza ennyumba omugambe nsasula KCCA, nsasula rate income tax. Bw'oba n'ekifo ky'oliko nga si kya bwannannyini ojja kusasula ne ground rent. Ye maama landlord yakola nsobi kuzimba nnyumba, mwagala yettebwe si mwagala akole ki? Tubasaba mujje mu bitundu byaffe, mujje e Lubaga, mulondemu. Lubaga erina ebiruka 13, Lubaga South erina 8, Lubaga North erina 5, n'ebitundu ebirala bwe bityo bwe biri. Mukwatagane n'obukulembeze bw'ekyalo, mulabe nga muyambako. Bannayuganda twagala osasula emisolo, naye ng'omukulu bw'agambye ogenda okuwulira miliyoni 4 zaatutte empapulo okuva Kampala Farmers House tuuka Ntebe. Omuntu agwamu amaanyi agasasula omusolo, n'owulira biliyoni 5 basomesezza okunywa caayi. Nsaba mujje tuyambagane, ffe tuli willing osasula omusolo. Neze mangi bw'emyaka 5 naye ng'emyaka 2 gya COVID, kati obwenkanya buliwa? Neyanza nnyo.
Tweyanza nnyo, tweyanzege. Mbadde njagala microphone eddeko mu maaso eno.
Hello.
Eddako mu maaso.
My name is Annette Okumu.
Ani Annette aliwa? Okay, Annette.
Yes.
Let's go for it.
My concern is about assessment. Sometimes back in 2014, I think, where the URA was in that house of hope in Lower Kololo. By then you are still there, they call us for assessment. They did assessment, all was calculated well, I paid. But now recently, something has boiled out again, that in 2014 I have some outstanding. I always involve my accountant. I have now the tax agent, because I have a hotel also. So my concern is, why do URA keep quiet for long for a tenant, for the landlord not to know? Because it has accumulated now, which is wrong. Even in court, even if you go to court, then the court will ask you, URA, where were you since 2014? And the thing has accumulated too much up to now. I remember one time I paid 15 million because our accountant filing registered for payments, and then it did not inform us, so the thing keep on accumulating. Why do URA employees sit on those things without informing the landlords? Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you. Let that microphone come forward. There's a lady there with a microphone. You bring that one forward.
Amanya nze Nakijoba Joyce. Kati nze okwange kulinga kwemulugunya eri URA. Abaami abali mu business nga ogamba bano abasajja abali mu business abamu ebintu bino tebabimanyi. Oli agenda nagulawo company, maybe n'ateekamu rentals, n'ateekamu ne business endala, n'atuusa sometime n'aggyamu rentals muyo company gy'abaguddewo. Naye ogenda okulaba maybe challenges ne zibeewo, this person closes business. Waggalawo business, ogenda olaba ne emisolo bakyamupayiringa sente zikyeyongera maaso, naye ngono omuntu yagalawo da business long time, ne premises we zaali address waliwo bantu balala bakolerawo. So URA eyonga URA efuna abantu bagenda mu fields at times, era omuntu if it was a company ng'ekola lwaki kubanga wabeerawo transaction is going ahead, naye teri transactions, but the money keeps piling on this company. Right now they've sent messages, it's really a lot of money. These people stopped working in 2018, but how are they going to pay this money when they're working on the process of closing that business? Another issue, it is also a question, I wanted to inquire why when it comes to rentals, the people we withhold tax to, why don't when they are withholding, we don't reflect on their returns? What should we do about that?
Come again.
The people we withhold from, okay, when we withhold from, we don't reflect on their returns when they are withholding. Then residential houses where they are not allowed wear and tear deductions. That's what I had.
Thank you very much. Where is the microphone here? Okay, let us have the gentleman here.
Sebana yanza kumpa mukisa guno. Amanya gange Kamgo Fred Keta. I'm a business consultant representing several taxpayers. Ekibuuzo kyange ekisooka kigenda ku capital deductions on buildings. Sebo n'abasasuzi b'omusolo bannange bali wano bajja kukkaanya nange nti URA you abolished capital deductions on buildings. Ate nga mukimanyi bulungi nti omuntu akeera nagenda mu banka nafuna loan n'azimba ekizimbe kyemugenda okutandika okuwoza omusolo. N'akatono ko mwali muwadde balandlord nako mwakabajjako. Lwaki mwagala okukama amata mu nte nga temugiwa biwata? Ekyokubiri, lwaki URA teteekawo enkola enungamu ey'abasitafu bammwe ogenda nga bavisitinga aba taxpayers nga buli kiseera babajjukiza oba emisolo egiri outstanding other than leaving it for a long time and is accumulated. Ensonga yokusatu ye ya stamp duty. Sebo ngula ploti yange $5,000,000 nenzimbamu ennyumba nga teyakusulamu. Wemba nduddewo nga sifunye sente zikola transfer, URA mwagala kunzijjako omusolo gwa stamp duty of 1.5 including the building which I've erected on the land. Nze ndaba nga ennyumba sigenda agitunda. Lwaki muva munsasuza omusolo emirundi ebiri? Kubanga when I was constructing that house kitegeeza nti nali nsasula omusolo nga ngula materials ezo. Lwaki munsasuza omusolo gwa stamp duty ogw'obuyinike of 1.5 on the whole value of land and its building ate nga singenda gitunda? Neyanza nnyo ssebo webaleta.
Wow, thank you very much. Excuse me, it is nice when you are picked upon and you present. Go for it.
Thank you very much. I thought by giving me the microphone, I was picked to speak.
Go for it.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity and bringing us here. It is very good for citizens to pay taxes, and that is our obligation. But I wanted to know why a citizen who is trying to secure a loan and trying to put up a property is charged before the property is finalized and is still servicing the loan. We have heard that some investors come here and they get exemptions. Why not help Ugandans also who are able to secure a loan develop? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Where's the mic from this side? Okay, that gentleman over.
Neyanza nnyo ssebo okumpa omukisa guno. Erinnya Sydney Sendegese Makula okuva e Makerere, Kawempe Division. Ebisinga bannange babyogedde ne kantandikire ku kyange. Abamu ku ffe wano tulina abapangisa batono nga 10 oba 5. Ate ennyumba zaffe si nnungi nnyo. Kyentegeeza nti omuntu asobola okuvaamu nemala emyezi 3 ng'eri awo. Ne mumusigala musindika message nga mwagala ssente. Mukitegeera mutya era kikola ntya okulaba nga mbategeeza nti ennyumba teri mu bantu okumala ebbanga bwe riti? Kyekyo ssebo.
Thank you very much. Musoke mumpemu eddakiika. Basebo ne bannyabo abagenyi baffe mwenna njagala okuddamu okubaaniriza wano ku Uganda Revenue Authority. You're very welcome. We are officially beginning our program because our chief host, your host, is here for the engagement, and I would like us to get the national anthem. So I would want the national anthem, and we will follow that up with a prayer. So Madam Stella, you'll help us when the prayer comes. Ladies and gentlemen, bakama baffe abagenyi baffe abalungi, could we stand for the national anthem? Tuyimire oluyimba lw'eggwanga. Tujja kutandika ne national anthem, tuzeeko ne East African anthem, y'enkola eyaffe wano e Uganda for patriotism. The anthems.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tulilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Prayer.
Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we thank you for this afternoon. We thank you for each and every guest that is here. We thank you for our taxpayers. Thank you for our businesses. Thank you, Lord, for their leadership. And we thank you for URA and the entire staff body. Father, as we deliberate on issues, as we have a meeting of minds from our landlords, from the tenants, we ask that you give us the wisdom, you give us the knowledge, you give us the guidance, and you send the Holy Spirit to give us the grace to have an understanding and an appreciation of the entire URA mandate and the obligations of our taxpayers. I say this in the name of the Almighty God, our Father. Amen.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you could take your seats. It is a pleasure to have all you here. Commissioner General, I think it is the first time that we're having an audience this large in Sendaula. Usually where we anticipate this kind of audience would have gone to probably Africana or maybe gone to a football pitch to be able to accommodate the numbers, but this also shows the interest in the subject matter. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason you are here and the reason you were invited is to have a conversation with the Commissioner General. Now that he's here, without wasting time, we will invite our team leader at the Uganda Revenue Authority, our transformer in terms of transforming the culture at the Uganda Revenue Authority in mobilizing resources for this country, to address us with some welcome remarks. We will later then read him some of the issues and we'll get some responses. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Commissioner General of the Uganda Revenue Authority.
I'm still trying to figure out what language I should use for communicating effectively. Is everybody here comfortable with English? Of course. Of course not, maybe. Is everyone here comfortable with Luganda? We get a translator. Okay. Ibrahim, come and translate. Okay. Our distinguished guests, the valued taxpayers, the landlords of Kampala Metropolitan and the suburbs around.
Abagenyi baffe mwenna ba landlord ne mwenna gye muvudde mu suburbs e Kampala.
Ladies and gentlemen, in your respective capacities, good afternoon.
Mu bitiibwa byammwe mwenna tubalamusizza era tubaaniriza.
First of all, I want to thank you for responding to our invitation in such big numbers.
Tubeebaza okujja mu bungi era tubeebaliza ddala.
But number two, I also want to apologize for not having clearly segregated your sect, and we invite you in batches. Clearly, we have invited more than what we can handle in one meeting.
Twetonda olw'okuba nti nno tetwabayise mu bibinja ne tubayita mwenna mu classes zonna ne tuzigatta, twalibadde kino tukikola mu ntandikwa.
So today we will try and give a message that combines the audiences from the big arcade owners to the small landlords. We shall try and give a general message that covers all, but going forward, we will separate and meet each category separately.
Tugenda kwogera eri buli muntu. Ebintu byetugenda okwogera nga bikwata buli ku muntu, okusinziira oba oli mutono, oba oli munene, oba oli gaggadde, naye nga gye tugenda mu maaso tujja kusobola okubateeka mu bibinja okuba nti tuwuliziganya.
So apologies for not sitting you comfortably, for you not listening or seeing us very well. I see some people outside. I hope they can see us on the screens. Sincere apologies. We'll do better next time.
Twetonda era tujja kulongoosaamu naddala abo abatudde ebweru nga bagoberera ekigenda mu maaso.
And of course, those who are still trying to come in. I've just come from another meeting. I saw a long line at the gate. I hope they will join us.
Katusuubire nti aba bakyali ebweru abatannayingira abatannamala registration batweyungako mu bwangu naye nga tutuuse okwetonda kwaffe.
But having said that, we want to thank you for coming, responding positively to our call, to our invitation.
Tusiimira ddala okuba nti mwasobodde okuwulira omulanga ne musobola okujja, ekyo tukisiimira ddala.
Thank you very much for contributing your taxes towards the development of the nation.
Tubeebaza okukola omulimu gwammwe okuba nti muwaayo omusolo okukulaakulanya eggwanga lyaffe.
You are some of the people, the key sectors of this economy that have sustained the country by contributing a reasonable share to the tax effort.
Muli ekiwayi ku bimu ebisinga okuteeka ettaffaali eddene ku nkulaakulana y'eggwanga lyaffe lino.
The purpose for this meeting is to tell you on the new direction that we are taking as a country in terms of revenue collection.
Tubayise wano okuba nti tubategeeza omwatwa n'empenda ze tugenda okuyitamu mu ngeri gye tukuŋŋaanyaamu essente ezigenda okuyamba eggwanga lyaffe.
Uganda is one of the least countries in terms of tax to GDP. The contribution of tax to GDP, we are one of the lowest collecting countries of tax in the whole world.
Bw'otunuulira ensi yonna, ensi yaffe Uganda ze zimu ezisinga okuŋŋaanya essente entono ku muzindo gw'ensimbi ebyamaguzi ebitambula mu ggwanga gye tuyita tax to GDP. Tukuŋŋaanya katono nnyo.
For the first time this financial year, we have stepped into 14% tax to GDP.
Omwaka guno gwe gusoose okumala emyaka ng'etaano okuba nti kati tuyingidde mu butundu 14 ku kikumi mu nkuŋŋaanya gye tuyita ya tax to GDP.
Boss awo tukitegedde bulungi. Kasooka Uganda yakatandika guno omwaka gwe gusoose fe okusobola kukuŋŋaanya omusolo oguli 14% of the GDP.
Ako mukawulidde.
Okuva emabega yonna gye tuvudde okutuuka ku guno omwaka 23 tubadde tuli wakati wa pasenti 10 ne 12, naye mu myaka gino 2-3 egiyiseewo twatuuse 13 n'ekitundu, kati twatuuse 14. N'olwekyo tubeebaza, mwebalire ddala okwongeramu amaanyi.
Mwebale nnyo, mwebalire ddala bannaffe.
But research all over the world has shown that any country that collects below 18 to 20% of tax to GDP, it cannot develop.
Okunoonyereza okukoleddwa abakugu kulaga nti mu nsi yonna ensi ezikuŋŋaanya obutundu obuli wansi wa 18 ku kikumi tesobola kukulaakulana.
For example, the average for sub-Sahara Africa is 16%.
Bw'ogezesa nti Africa bw'otunuulira average ng'okubizaamu ensi ziri ku obutundu 16 ku kikumi mu nkuŋŋaanya.
Meaning some countries like South Africa, they collect about 26%.
Ensi nga zi South Africa zo zisukkulumye zikuŋŋaanya obutundu 26 ku kikumi mu nkuŋŋaanya.
But Uganda and others in our group who collect about 12-13 for the last so many years, we've been pulling down the average of Africa to about 16.
Fenga Uganda n'ensi endala ndowooza ezituli wansi tubadde tukyali awo tukuŋŋaanya obutundu 13 ku kikumi, era nga ffe tubadde tukyatadde average ya Africa okuba nti nekyali ku 16 ku kikumi, so tukyakuŋŋaanya essente ntono nnyo mu musolo.
But for the developed countries, like the Western countries, countries like Denmark, like Northern Ireland, like the Netherlands, all those collect 35% onwards, up to 40% of the GDP.
Ensi ezikulaakulanye nga zi Netherlands, zi Denmark, zo zikuŋŋaanya obutundu 35 n'okugenda waggulu ku kikumi mu ssente z'omusolo, era kyetuva tulaba nti nno zikulaakulana.
So, for Ugandans, fellow citizens, if we are to dream of having a country that is fully developed, where the citizens and the people who trade in the country enjoy themselves the way we think of the developed world, we must pull up our socks in domestic revenue mobilization.
Bwe tubanga ekirooto kyaffe okukulaakulanya eggwanga lyaffe tusobola okukituukirira, tulina okuba nti nno tuteekamu amaanyi okuba nti nno tusobola okuŋŋaanya essente eziwera okutuusa obuweereza naffe tube nga tufaananako ensi ezikulaakulanye.
And Uganda Revenue Authority, as the institution mandated to collect revenue for national development, we have resolved, we have committed, and we have started on a journey of improving our tax to GDP to at least 18 to 20% in the short medium term, in the next 2 to 3 years.
Nga Uganda Revenue Authority twekozeemu omulimu era tutemye empenda okulaba nti tusobola okusitula omulimu gw'okukuŋŋaanya omusolo tube nga naffe tusobola okutuuka mu bitundu 18 ku kikumi okulaba nti nno kino tusobola okukituukiriza mu myaka nga 2-3 egigenda mu maaso.
Twewaddeyo. We have resolved.
Twewaddeyo okuba nti tusobola okutambuza omulimu ogwo nga tukuŋŋaanya ssente ezo obutundu 18 ku kikumi obw'omusolo okuba nti tukulaakulanya eggwanga lyaffe.
But we realize this is not a journey we can take alone and succeed.
Naye tukimanyi nti nno luno olugendo tetulusobola ffekka nga Uganda Revenue Authority bwe tuba nga tuli baakuluggusa.
We need to go with you. We need to walk with you in support of each other.
Twetaaga okutambula ffenna, twekwate ku mukono, tutambule buli omu ng'awagira munne ku lugendo luno.
And that is the reason we have called you today.
Era nga y'ensonga ebampisiza wano leero.
The rental tax sector has been one of the least performing the least performing tax heads.
Rental tax ng'omutwe ogwa musolo gwe tukuŋŋaanya ze zimu ezibadde zikyakola obubi ennyo bw'otunuulira emitwe gy'omusolo emirala gyonna.
Over the last 3 years, we have improved by probably about 80%, because about 3 years ago, at the start of COVID, we were collecting about 110 billion from the rental sector. 2019-20, we collected about 110 billion.
Myaka esatu egiyise tubadde twakakuŋŋaanya ensimbi obuwumbi nga figa 110 mu 10, naye nga waliwo enkulaakulana gye tulaba gye tuyita growth mu nkuŋŋaanya wadde ekyali wansi.
This last year we collected 215 billion.
Omwaka guno twakuŋŋaanya biliyoni 215.
That's almost 100%. It's almost double. And I thank you for that improvement. It's because of your sacrifice.
Eyo improvements kumpi eri 100 ku 100, era njagala kubeebaza okuwaayo kwammwe okulaba nti twasobola okufuna performance eyo.
But there is still a lot of improvement that can be done.
Naye nga tusuubira nti tukyalinayo improvement nnene ekyasobola okukolebwa mu nkuŋŋaanya ya rental tax.
As an example, this 215 billion is less than 1% of the total taxes that we collect in a year.
Bw'oba ogezesezza zino biliyoni 215 biri kitono bw'oba ogezesezza akatundu kamu 1% ku nkuŋŋaanya y'omusolo gwonna.
To be specific, it is 0.85%.
In fact, bw'oba opimye, it is 0.85 obutundu contribution ku nkuŋŋaanya yonna.
But from the size of the sector, this should be contributing as a minimum between 4 and 5%.
Naye nga bw'otunuulira size ya sector eya rento yalibadde esobola okukuŋŋaanya obutundu 4 ku 5 ku 100 ku nkuŋŋaanya y'omusolo gwonna gwe tukuŋŋaanya.
In absolute figures, we should be collecting about 1 trillion per year from the rental tax head.
Nti bw'oba otunuulidde omuzindo gw'ensimbi gwe twalibadde tukuŋŋaanya mu sekita eno twalibadde tususa triliyoni y'essente ak'essente mu nkuŋŋaanya y'omusolo ogwa rento.
So the purpose for this meeting is to engage. We want to listen to you, and I'm happy I found when you had started sharing some of your thoughts and questions and concerns.
Nabayise wano okuba nti nno nsobola okubawuliriza ne bannange bakulu bannange tusobole okuba nti tusobola okugonjoola ku bimu ebintu naddala ebibaluma, era ndi musanyufu nti wennyingiridde ng'ensonga ezo ezimu mutandise okubako nga muziteeka mu maaso.
How can we support you?
Tubayambye tutya?
How can we support you to pay your taxes better on this rental tax head?
Tubayambye tutya okuba nti musobola okujjumbira okusasula omusolo gwammwe mu butuufu ku rental tax head eno?
What is it that you find a challenge that we do not understand? We want to listen to you, hear your challenges, know what is it that stands in your way from fulfilling your tax obligation honestly.
Ki ekibalemesa? Empulunguse ziri ludda wa? Ki ekyo ekibalemesa kuba nti musobola okutuukiriza obuvunaanyizibwa bwammwe mu nsonga eno? Twagala kumanya tulabe kye tusobola okukola okuzigonjoola.
I suspect that maybe a number of you may not even be aware that you're supposed to pay tax on your rental income. It is possible.
Nze nina n'endowooza nti osanga abamu ku mmwe temumanyi na kumanya nti mulina okusasula rental tax naddala ku property zammwe.
You may find the way the rental tax is structured is a bit too complicated for you to understand and to pay with ease without using an accountant or someone to help you understand.
Kisooka okuba nti nno engereka y'omusolo guno gwa rento ngeri ya kikugu nnyo eri complex nti oluusi abamu mwetaaga accountant okuba nti akibakolera.
You may find some of you maybe no, but you are worried that if you pay tax, your businesses will collapse. Therefore, you think it is better to underdeclare or underpay.
abamu nze ndowooza mulowooza nti mukimanyi nti omusolo gulina okuweebwa naye ndowooza musuubira nti bw'otandika okuwa omusolo bizinesi ye egenda ggwa kyova wenyigira mu mbeera y'okuba nti nno osasula katono oba n'obutasulirako ddala.
So whatever the challenge is today is our opportunity for us to interact and listen to one another and agree on a way forward.
Ku bitutawaanya ebyo byonna tubadde twagala tukozesa akaseera kano tube nga tuwuliza ensonga ezo tuzinogere ddala tugonjoole ensonga ezo tulabe nti tusobola okutambula bumu okugenda mu maaso.
So I want to take my seat and invite you to continue the discussion and the interaction and the sharing. This is a meeting where we've come to meet and agree because, as I've already mentioned, we as Uganda Revenue Authority, we have realized that whatever we've tried in the last 30 years of our existence, we have not succeeded. We now want to work with you, and this is our chance to harmonize our thinking and we move together.
Njagala okutwala akakisa kano ntuule tugende maaso ne session ey'okuwuliriza ensonga zammwe tusobole okuba nti nno we tuviira wano tufunye eddagala gye tunogedde ku nsonga ezo tusobole okutambula obumu olw'okuba nti nno mu myaka 3 gye tumaze nga Uganda Revenue Authority tulabye nti guno omulimu gw'okukuŋŋaanya omusolo tetugusobola ffekka era twetaaga okutambula nammwe bwe tuba nga twakugusa.
Thank you very much for listening to me.
Neyanziza nnyo mwebale kumpuliriza.
Because of our numbers, not everybody can speak. So I request that if someone has already said what you wanted to say, just know that they have represented you, wait for the answer.
Olw'okuba nti nnamba zaffe nnene bw'obanga waliwo already aboogedde nga balina ensonga zaabwe ze batadde mu maaso kitwale nti ensonga ezo bwe zinaaba nga zaanukuddwa ojja kuba nga oli represented.
Kyoyagala kubuuza oba waliwo abadde akibuuziza ate tokiddamu tusobole okusevinga obudde.
Ako tukawulidde.
Ate n'ekirala bw'oba obuuza buuliza mu kabanga akatono nnyo tukwate ekibuuzo kyo tukiddemu tetulwawo nnyo nga twogera ku nsonga emu. Mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala.
Tweyanziza nnyo tweyanzeege Ssenkulu wa Uganda Revenue Authority y'omwami John Rujoki Musinguzi. Mbadde nsaba tutambule bwe tuti bwe kubanga kwe kukkiriza kwa Commissioner General nti tugenda kufunayo obudakiika round still tufuneyo emikono. Ebyo byanaabawulidde ate bwe tugenda okusoma bino bye twasoose okufuna tufune okuddibwamu. Awo bwe tuba nga tulina bye tutatanyiza bulungi engagement yeeyongera okugenda mu maaso. Bwe kuba nga kukkiriza Commissioner General n'abalala mbadde nsaba tutambule bwe tutyo. Microphones zaffe tuziyina? Okay. Mbadde nsaba tutandikire side zaawo ku mikono egyo egiri awo giri emikono ena 1 2 3 4 egyo tugimale tulyoke tuddeko side zeeno.
Neyanziza nnyo bakama bange era mwebale kujja. Saba mukama wange ennyumba ezaffe nsooka kubuuza essente ze tuwa mu nnyumba tetulina mugaso gwe tuzirabaamu. Kwa ennyumba ezaffe ezimu emutungo biina ziyingiza amazzi. Ate oli wajja n'asasula emyezi 3 omulimbiikiriza mu musana. Enkuba eno weetonnya essaawa zino ayinza okwebakamu paka enkuba weekya. Kati essaawa zino tuli mu mazzi wogezaako okuzimba akafunvumano wayingirira ate n'emmanju era gayingira. Kati n'agamba nze nkibalirewa. Ensonga ey'okubiri senga naffe mutulaga ku ssente zaffe ze tubasasula mutuweeko ku bitaala eri wansi gye tukkirira mumukomendo ku makubo. Kasasiro naffe ate okumusitula okumuleeta eno ku kkubo kodde ebimotoka byammwe bya bwereere. Ate ennyumba ezaffe wansi zisaswa basajja ba booda ba takisi. Omusajja owa booda bakwata booda ye n'emala ebbanga ku poliisi. Ate omusajja oyo muzadde alina abaana be ayinza okumala mu nnyumba emyezi 5 nga takusasudde. Kati mutuwa nsonga ki omusajja oyo tubajjamu tutya mu nnyumba nga temutugambangako ti ennyumba eno oli waba agandidde mu nnyumba mukolewe muti. Naye poliisi oba LC etya okukwata ku bantu abo. Tukoze tutya okulaba nti tufuna obwenkanya ate abasajja ba booda abo beezaalira. Ogenda okuva mu nnyumba ng'abaana ettooyi ejjudde tojja mugamba nti tojjojjuza genda n'ebintu byo. Kakati bakama bange tukoze tutya embeera y'ennyumba.
Weebale nnyo weebalire ddala.
Neyanziza.
Addako awo waliwo emikono ena.
Amannya agange nze Sseggya Charles. Obuzibu bwenfuna ku revenue waliwo akagambo ke bagamba nti fayiringa afuna simanyi accountant ku buyumba bwe nnina. Temuyinza tukolera nga state council ne mugamba nti okusinziira ku nnyumba litaani ze simumanyi sibimanyi era sibitegeera n'obinnyonnyola sijja bikola ki. Manye nti nina kusasulanga ssente beeziti nzibawe. Ate n'ekirala bajja okwogera naffe baleme kuba bakambwe nnyo tutiisatiisa. Bajja mu kitundu tebabuuzibwa bibuuzo bo baagala byabwe biboogedde bye biba bikola ki bye biba bikola. Neyanziza nnyo.
Weebale nnyo weebalire ddala. Sooka olindeko kwatirira mu just awo. Okay. Commissioner General avudde waggulu ayina essira kwalitadde ku bukambwe bwaffe nga tukuŋŋaanya ensimbi era abantu bangi nnyo ensonga y'obukambwe n'engeri gye tubayisaamu eyo bagitaddeko nnyo essira tetujja giddamu. Genda mu maaso.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. By names of Tumwine Samuel. I have around like 3 issues. The first issue is a simple clarification. When is it appropriate for me to invoice a tenant? Is it at the time of receiving payment or every after month or as per agreement that I have with the client? When is it appropriate? Secondly, my second issue is Ura, there is something wrong. We appreciate that this time round you managed to hit your target. But we have some small challenge. I think you normally tend to tamper with our ledgers. And we need this time round, I think every person need to take it as a serious issue. Every month you print your ledger. You do something what we call a rerun. That rerun in ledgers normally tampers with figures. The figures tend to change. And when you look at the trend, it is normally done at the end of the financial year. Financial year, you find people we are struggling to defend ourselves. But it is normally caused by your systems, where you do reruns and ledgers change figures. Lastly, it's better today we have met the commissioner. There's a little bit of injustice in such a way that, for example, where Ura is benefiting, you put a penalty and interest on someone. But when it comes where a client is benefiting, for example, I'm asking for a refund, you take long to work on my refund. It might even take like 4 months, 7 months. I'm running to recover my money. That is not easy. Please, Commissioner, we are kindly requesting for your assistance in that matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 2 more hands there before I relieve that place.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Commissioner, for this opportunity to engage with you. So I just want to add on to what was briefly mentioned. The colleague at the back had mentioned the 50% cap and how, at worst, it could be exploitative. And I believe at best, unknowingly debilitating. Another gentleman mentioned that during the time of development, many of us have loans that we're trying to service, and having to pay tax in that moment of where we're not receiving income and developing is not an opportune time for us. And it could, like what you had said before, could drive us out of business. So, but I also understand where it came from, in that real estate is an industry where you can be forever in perpetuity in a loss. Because once you finish one building, tenants come in and you're onto the next building and the loss keeps going on. So I understand where that came from. So my suggestion is, because real estate involves big products, perhaps during the time of development, you give us time to grow. We should be exempt during those times, and then when tenants come in, when income starts flowing, that's when we are taxed. And then these issues of 50% cap won't come in. That's
Thank you
just a
very much.
suggestion.
I would like that microphone to be given to Mr. Charles Luanga. Mr. Charles Luanga, I would want you, out of that, to repeat the question you made. I'm sure our Commissioner for Domestic Taxes would want to hear it from your mouth. Yes, Mr. Luanga. It is still on the 50% capping. I think he would better bring it out himself.
Thank you very much, sir. My name's Charles Luanga, and the point I wanted to raise is a point in principles of taxation. I gave an example that, for example, if I bought a piece of land on, say, Kampala Road, $2 million, to develop that property, I need an extra $4 million from the bank. Now, when that property is on the market, for example, in the first year, second year, I'm only collecting 500 million. Out of 500 million I've collected, I have got to pay to the bank about 550 million in interest to service the loan. But besides, I also have other expenses to pay because I'm not going to collect that income alone. I have workers, I have to pay water, and those kinds of things. So it means that in the first year, I'm even borrowing money from my other sources to finance the investment. But when I make my returns, you tell me, look, you collected 500 million, we can only allow 50% of your costs as deductible expenses. Now, we are asking, how will the economy develop when you are not allowing us to recover, to even sustain the investment? How shall we build more buildings? Because it means my building will go. Two, there is also the principle of industrial building allowances. I put up a building, for example, a processing facility, and I rent it out. Now, I probably have used my own money, okay? And then you tell me, we shall not allow industrial building allowances. What was previously there in the tax regimes is that we would allow these allowances in over, say, 5 years. And they're genuine expenses in principles of taxation. But all because we want too much money now, we are actually strangling the sector. And yet in other jurisdictions, these principles are still observed. We kindly need to look at that law in its fairness and revise it, because these people also incur expenses. So for you to come out and say, we are only capping it at that, yet in trade you allow it, it is not fair. If I have a shop, if I have a factory, you will allow all my expenses. Now, where is the equilibrium when you are denying real estate to take off genuine expenses, which you can prove?
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
Two, we also need to support this sector by developing a fair law in which if somebody does not pay, we have a clear system in which we can follow them up. But now if you look at the court systems, it is against the landlord. If you look at the police system, it doesn't help the landlord. If you look at the LC system, it doesn't help the landlord. If you look at my house, you'll say you have so many rooms or so many shops. Over there, you should have collected this. But during some of those months, I didn't get the money. And when I explained to you that, you say, no, for us, we are counting so many units. For us, we are counting so many shops. So when does the system support us? When does URA come up and say, let's put in place a system which will help the landlord realize this rent so that we can then go and knock at his door and get this rent? When you don't support the tax base from which you are going to collect the money, and you only concentrate at collecting, I think you are missing a very big point here. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Excellent. Just a moment. CG, you may want to know, some of the issues are here. What is the step-by-step procedure for one to get the waiver on interest and penalties after they have paid their principal tax? I think they're referring to Section 40D. And then, is it possible for someone to pay the pending principal tax in installments? So one more person there, and then we shall cross over. One more person there.
Oh my Lord. I'm Mrs. Margaret Serogoti, representing Mr. Agaba Raymond, former Commissioner, Minister of Trade. He's a landlord and not around. And I'm a retired staff of Uganda Revenue Authority.
Welcome, OG.
Now, my issue is a concern which needs to be corrected. When someone files a final return, when that person is solely a rent or individual taxpayer and files a rental final return, it comes with a payment registration notice, even if someone has paid. And I remember calling for that issue. Up to now, it's not corrected. Some people, they just pay anyhow. So someone who has already paid gets a payment registration. That needs to be rectified, one. Then secondly, there is a person who talked about years prior to 2014/2015, rental income taxpayers were paying income tax. It was changed from year 2014 to 15. Now, currently, such a person who is solely a rental taxpayer, when you check the ledger system, has two ledgers accounts. One of income tax, another one of rental. So in case someone has a credit for the years prior to 2014 to 15, cannot be used to offset this ledger of income tax rental. I asked about it and said, maybe someone asked for a refund. So very few people. That's why the other one is being demanded income tax rental for those years. Check your system, then you must be having a credit on income tax. So that issue has to be rectified, Mr. CG. Then, another issue. Now, currently, what I discovered, when someone submits a provisional return, is not automatically posted on the ledger. It is not there. So if someone has a credit and he has submitted a provisional return, must he pay less because he has already a credit, which has to be deducted? And in the case of an issue, and the issue is in tax reconciliation, they continue demanding a taxpayer. There is a time someone had a credit, a big one, and was being demanded tax when a person had a credit. So there is need, please, to work on horizontal communication in the system so that when the case is being handled, in either objection or reconciliation, officers should not continue demanding taxpayers. So there must be effective horizontal communication.
Thank you very much. Okay, we want to cross over here, cross over this way. I see some hands there at the back. Crossover.
Thank you. My name is Brenda. My question comes about the audits with URA. URA conducts audits. Normally, they send out comprehensive letters after the audit. A few months, a year later, they will come back for the same audit and go like a year back. Let's say it was 2014 to 2020, and then they will come back, they want to audit 2012 to 2021. And then we also have, we've been told that we should keep documentations for at least 10 years. Then they're asking you for documentations for over 14 years. Can we be very specific? These comprehensive audits come with letterheads from URA, and sometimes we presented them to URA, and they're like, no, the officer in charge erred. But that's not our responsibility. We played our part. Can URA also be able to do that? And please get back to us. We've written letters, we've asked, we've gone to different offices. And we're not getting responses, but the demands keep coming. We take time to come to head office, come from our workplaces to have the issues resolved, but URA does not come to us. They are taking up our time where we would be working, and yet we're not getting the response. They're not taking good care of us. They should be able to come as well, or be able to take up responsibility and respond in time, other than respond with more demands, interests, and all that, yet they've not taken care of our issues. And the issue of how long do they expect us to keep certain documents, you know, receipts, you know, sometimes even these particular receipts, they will erase automatically and you won't be able to see the information, but they're still asking for them, sorry, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mukama wange, Mukulu Ssebenjogi.
Amanya gange nze Sebugwawo Mpakyanja, nze njagala pulaani yammwe kati siri ku bya misolo gyammwe kuba tugibawa. Bw'osanga amaduuka ekyanja ssebo nga gavaamu million 10 eza URA, State Council million 5 per financial year, ng'aba taxi n'aba bodaboda bonna bonna bawambawo. Tugenda ku poliisi yammwe erimu endali ebakwata ne bata ekiro. Aba bodaboda balimu ebitinga 3, abamu bayita Lubyanza, abalala bagamba nti bambega ba gavumenti, gamba embeera si nnungi. Nze ensonga yange njagala ebeemu. URA egenda kuyamba etya abantu abo be bateeyambi nabo baleme okuwa awo tubalansingira nti bali tebakyakola abamaduuka kubanga bakola omwezi 10 bavaamu. Tuleme okuwa akantu konna be mulijja ne tusolvinga ensonga eyo tuli wa ssente. Bwe bali nyese.
Twenza nnyo Mwami Ssebenjogi. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wilberforce Nsamba, and I represent several taxpayers. My cry is on the allowable expenses. You present your genuine expenses, and your officials keep declining. I've refused this expense because I think it wasn't in generation of income. I don't know how URA can raise capacity or outsource capacity to come and know what a property developer goes through. In this country, when you develop a property, you have to pave the road to your property. You have to do a lot of surrounding for security, for proper drainage, etc. Services would expect that come from our property rates. And yet when we present those expenses, you decline them, that they are not in line of generation of income. I think generate capacity to know the construction cycle and what actually relates to our properties.
Allowable expenses. Thank you very much. Let us first get here.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Samali Namboze. So I wanted to add a bit on the question he asked, the one of 50% allowable expenses. The law that was released recently was vague. It did not indicate if the IBD is included in the 50%, and if so, what is the landlord left with? Also on top of that, Commissioner General, you asked, what would make it easier for us to pay our taxes? The law keeps changing every year. Last year, it was at 75% allowable expenses. This year, you have capped it to 75%, to 50% allowable expenses. 25% increase is quite high. And yet there are so many expenses that URA does not allow. The other one is about the change from rental income tax and income tax. Because many of us were filing before in income tax. So when you change to rental income tax, there's a lot of money left behind that URA system does not allow us to change. Yet the money belongs to one company, that same individual. Why isn't it allowed? Because you have our money. You can just change it from one account to another.
Thank you very much. There is a lady there. Lady? there's a lady there. Let's first have the lady there, then we'll get to you. CG, somebody asked, it is one of the papers here, when they are withheld from, that's the withholding tax, why doesn't it reflect on their ledger automatically? Yes, madam, go on.
Very good evening to you all. I'm Flavia Namuli, a representative of Dr. Alan Shonobi. He's among the top 200 taxpayers URA printed. First of all, I want to thank the income tax rental officers that when you reach out, they try to follow up. That, I thank you. My second issue is about the technical terms that you use. First of all, I'll give an example like administrative assessment. I log in into my ledger and I find administrative assessment. Not everyone would know the term. So I would ask myself, what is this? Can we get a way to simplify these terms or get them known to everyone? That if you find an assessment and it's administrative, it relates to late filing. If they give you an assessment of this kind, it relates to this. This will really help. And also a request, maybe could you please update the URA TV? Because some things, if you just Google, use YouTube, you'll find videos of 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and we can all agree things keep on changing. So if I'm not able to come to URA, how fast can I get help? It's through Google or online. Can we please update the URA TV? And also, I think a colleague mentioned this. If we reconcile and we agree, why does URA go back behind in the older years, like 2010, and put their debits on my ledger? Meaning, if I'm not keen enough and I haven't kept the old ledger, I won't be able to see that something has been added. I myself have faced this, someone mentioned it. We reconcile, they give you, this is your ledger. You go back to the previous years, there is nothing. But the now current ledger you're giving me you have added in a lot of things in the previous years. I think that doesn't reflect right on your side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The gentleman who last had the mic in front here.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm called Chinyera Santos. Mine is about the provision which I saw in the East African paper about the alternative dispute resolution between a taxpayer and Commissioner General. Does this provision still hold? How do we, the taxpayers, benefit from this? Because I hear a number of people are already complaining that sometimes they feel they are being unfairly taxed. Some others say they bring in the whatever filing they do, but still, when they write to you people, you don't listen. Someone would feel now the only alternative is to go to court, but I'm happy to know that now we have another alternative of resolving the dispute. Would you like to throw light on this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a gentleman at the back there. Yeah, in front of Joshua. Good.
Thank you once again. I would like to thank the Commissioner General for your address. But within your address, you say that some people don't even seem to know that we have to pay rental tax. And I want to pick it from there. It is true that many people don't know. So, and again, you requested for a way forward. All the comments I've had, are complaints of people who are paying. So they may not improve our position going forward. I want to make some suggestions. One is that we increase the sensitization so that everyone knows their responsibility. Two, if I've not paid tax for 10 years, I want to suggest that we have a cutoff point and say now, okay, you didn't pay, but again you can't pay, because if you pay, you go under. Can you give us like 2 years backwards and we start afresh? So that going forward, we say now my liability is 2 years, and we fight with that. I'm sure going forward you'll collect more money. But I also want to suggest that if a person really is depending on a rental, giving him 100 or 200,000 a month, can't we exempt those people? And we take them out of the tax bracket, like we do for pay as you earn. If you're earning 200, 300, why should we really chase this man and bring him? Can't we have a law that has a threshold, the lowest threshold? Lastly, if I built my house and completed today, can't you give me 2 years to recoup before I start paying tax? Because as you realize, we are borrowing. We are struggling. Some of us, that's our only source of income. I've sold my piece of land, I've raised 2 rentals. Is it possible that you can give us a tax holiday before the taxman comes on our door? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sorry, can I have your name? The gentleman who was speaking.
My name is called Tom Sange, David.
Thank you.
Dear Commissioner, this goes out to you. Emmanuel Mwanika is my name again. And you sent us an invitation for a meeting starting at 2 to 4. It's just 7 minutes to 4. This is a suggestion because we cannot all digest. I believe all the landlords here have issues you need to handle. I'm just requesting the message you sent out or an invitation you sent out to the 10 divisions. Can you move outside of your office, out of the URA office, and come and visit the different divisions you have sent so that we can have this dialogue? And my last one is to request you, please, can we have this dialogue again? Let it not just stop here because we have limited time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me get some 2 hands here before I come back that side.
Good afternoon. I'm Nadia. And one, I have an issue with the IFRIS invoices. I was kindly requesting if they could at least give us a choice of editing the IFRIS or the invoice. Yes, I know there's an option of previewing it and taking a look at it, but in most cases after making it, the client gets to complain and you have to make a credit note, which takes almost like a long time for it to be approved. And that's a long process. And then the person gets to file that same the same money that you got to put there. And then when they get to approve the credit note, you have to call this person to, again, amend it for you to be able to approve the what? The credit note. Is there some way you can quicken it or a way for us to edit the invoice? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ismail Biekwaso, Property Manager, Senana Hyper. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, for inviting us. We appreciate this invitation. But oftentimes we have been in engagement and meeting you. You have been sharing with us your number. But unfortunately, you never receive your calls. And sometimes we are in a fix by your officers. They don't always handle us well, yet we are taxpayers. You expect a cow to give you milk, but you cane it from day one up to the end of the month, and you expect a better result from the same cow. Please, we kindly request you with your officers, continue with the engagement and listen to us attentively. We are taxpayers, but we need a listening ear, not an ear that pulls our neck. For example, me, I manage a building which owns a supermarket inside. You know, for us in a supermarket, we deal with the suppliers. Those suppliers give us their goods on credit. We pay them at every end of the month or two. But oftentimes you issue urgent notice closing our accounts. We cannot serve our suppliers. And you don't listen to us whenever we call you to engage you. So we find ourselves so desperate. Whom do we run to if you cannot listen to us? What is the sense of you giving us your number, yet you cannot receive our calls? All your commissioners are busy. They will never call back. Sometimes you tell us to contact other managers. They are too busy. Their offices are more bigger than even the heaven, that they don't listen. Please change the attitude in case you want to serve this country for the better. We are here to serve this country, and we support this country. We support all your effort, but please listen to us. If you are demanding money from a landlord, the building is not shifting, it is there. Why do you have to close my account so that I don't transact other businesses? Other businesses are stuck. And you say, all you need, so compare your chikumi nzikulewo, so compare your atano nzikulewo. I know I have your money. I'm not running away. And URA is not running away from here. Listen to us. Help us. You are the people to help us. Your juniors cannot listen to us at all. All they know is how to strangle us, that's all. So we run for you to help. You don't. We call you, you don't receive. So I ask myself, why did I own your number? For what? Thank you.
Dear Commissioner, I have two questions. The first one relates to businesses that closed because of the COVID era. We had businesses that closed and we repurposed. So if you repurpose and become a different business, but you have areas from the previous one, how do you treat it? Because by the time a business goes into areas, it actually has been making losses, and that's why it actually cannot pay its areas. And for how long will this go on? For example, if I can't pay by December, will they have then to put back interest that will go on for the following many years to come? How do we handle that? The other issue is the issue of the rates that you have given different areas. These rates are so high. I don't know how your system gets to them. I see places like Kololo at 166, Bugolobi 71, Mutungo 43. These are actually the same rates that are used to charge a client. So if you use those ones to assess tax, then what business are we doing? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner General, with your permission, I thought maybe we should get a round of responses. Some of the responses may be able to cover some base. As you come in, I just wanted you just to note some that you could respond to quickly. Some people are wondering, what is rental income? That happened here. Is rental income the same for a hall? If I'm hiring out a hall, do I pay rental income? If I have rented out a place where there's a mast, is that also requiring rental income? People need that clarity. People want to know. We have sent messages to them on the phone with assessments. We are demanding money. When were those assessments made? Because they have not seen people visiting them physically. So how do you make an assessment and send it to the phone without me knowing when the assessment was made? Somebody wants clarity between KCCA and URA. The different laws, they are paying property tax, they are paying rental income, there's VAT, and clarity around there. So, Commissioner General, you will enlarge. We have a number of questions that have been coming in. We are tallying them, and we shall have an appropriate moment to run through them systematically. Because I thought that so far what we have is volume enough to have a first round of response. Thank you very much. Abakyali ebweru tetubeera bidde. Bwe tufunamu okuddibwamu wano tusookera awo wabweru. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bossa, for handling this session. Can I, in addition, suggest that while we respond to some of these questions, anybody with a question, you put up a hand, we give you a note, a piece of paper, you write it down, so that as we answer, we are also collecting more. That may help us save time for the next round. Kiteke mu Luganda sebo.
Abagenyi baffe nti next round whenever etuuse buli ayagala okubuubaako n'ekibuuzo ky'obuuza twalyagadde n'osooka n'owanika omukono tukuwe akapapula owandiike. Bw'oba tofunye mu lukisa kubuuza tujja kuba tucollectinga information yeeyo. Tuli ffenna
Bossa kanto kamisinze. Mbadde nteesa nti nga bwe tuddamu bino ebibuuzo bye mwakabuuza kati tujja kuyisaamu empapula. Bw'oba olina kyoyagala kubuuza kiteeke ku lupapula. Kati nga bwe tuddamu kati we tunagenda okumalira nga ne sets endala ziba zize ku lupapula, ekyo kijja kutuyamba okwanguwako.
Tuyenza nnyo, Commissioner General.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to very deeply appreciate the questions that have been raised by the different landlords who have had the opportunity to be picked and ask questions. Waliwo omwami yasoose yayogedde ku areas eziwa omusolo naye ne zitafuna services bulungi ng'amataala, garbage collection, ze zimu ze zitera okujjula nnyo. Ndowooza ekyo kibuuzo kiri valid. Bwe tuwa omusolo twagala kulaba value evudde mu musolo. I have paid, I want a service. So kino tukinootinze, tujja kubeera nga tukidiscussingako ne service delivery institutions of government nga KCCA n'abalala. So kinaatuyamba bwe tufuna the exact locations, manye ebitundu ebingi ebitalina mataala oba ebiyina ebinnya. Ffenna nga tujja wano twalabye kaseera ke kyatutwalidde okutuuka wano. Kwegamba gavumenti egezaako okukola okuzaayo obuweereza ku bawi b'omusolo naye wetunaaba gavumenti nga tetambulidde ku speed emala bulungi tubeere bagumiikiriza naye nga tetusirise nga tulaizinga konsaani zaffe. So omwami ono yabuuziza twongere erinnya lyo n'ekifo ky'olimu tutuuse ensonga yo kubanga eyo emu ku rights zo ng'omuwi w'omusolo to ask for a service. The same gentleman talked about URA's toughness, high-handedness. Tuba tujja gye muli naye tujja nga tuli bakambwe. Abaye ku ekyo tetwagala kwegaana nnyo, ebiseera ebiyiseewo tubadde bakambwe naye tugezaako okukyusa ku bukambwe n'okujja nga tuli a bit humble. So ebinaaba bibaddewo emabega mutusonyiwe naye mu kwewaayo kwaffe kwe naayogeddeko mu luno olugendo olupya lwe tuliko twewaddeyo tetujja kukozesa bukambwe. Omuntu omukambwe takuyita nti jangu tutuule tulabe engeri ki gye tugenda okukwatagana wamu. So obukambwe oba bubaddewo tuli wano basitaafu bange bonna bali wano tukiwulidde ebyemabega mutusonyiwe eby'omu maaso tujja kubayisa bulungi oba tujja kuba approachinga bulungi nga tetuli bakambwe. Kati namwe tusaba bwe tukendeeza ku bukambwe ate temukiyita bugayaavu muleke tukwatire wamu ffenna tutambule ng'Abannayuganda nga tuyambagana kubanga tuyina omulimo ogw'okukola ate nga gw'amaanyi okukungaanya omusolo ogunaabeezawo eggwanga. Tubeera ne targets ne batugamba nti zino esente ze mulina okukungaanya mu mwaka. Olw'ekisa kya Katonda omwaka oguwedde target twagifunye naye ekyo kyazze nga tumaze emyaka 5 nga tetuweza target. Kati ngaffe abaatumibwa guno omulimu eggwanga liba litulaba ng'abantu abalemeddwa omulimu gwaffe ate n'ekirala abaleetedde ensi yaffe obutakulaakulana. So tujja kukendeeza ku bukambwe naye naamwe mwongere omukwewaayo okuba omusolo tutambule ffenna nga tuli ba mirembe. Samuel agambye abadde abuuza what is the appropriate time to invoice a tenant, ledger tampering, that every time we rerun the ledgers the figures change, no delay in refunds, and yet we don't pay interest. So at a time of invoicing, I want my commissioners to be alert because I will be calling them to come in. I want to imagine that this depends on your contract with your tenant. There are those who are paid quarterly, there are those who are paid annually, so that varies. But on the side of paying tax on the income you have received, we also have various options, and I want the commissioner, please get us another set of mic between the commissioners here so that whatever I pass to them, they can answer immediately. So CDT, I want you to explain the options and periods of paying rental tax. If someone, for example, receives rent ey'omwaka, can they pay the rental tax at once for the year, and so on?
Thank you, CG.
You can stand up, Sarah, so that they see you. You're not that tall to be seen from your chair. And also introduce yourself, please.
Good afternoon, our dear taxpayers, and thank you for coming. We appreciate the big numbers. We are very humbled. I'm called Sarah Chelangat, the Commissioner for Domestic Tax. Rental tax is one of the income taxes that is paid by individuals and companies. The companies also pay, including partnerships, including associations if you have a rental property, including any other organization, even a trust, as long as you have a building, a parking space, etc. Now, individuals...
I will have to translate, so you have to go a little slowly. So if you don't worry to come again so that I can catch the conversation.
Yeah, I was saying, just thanking our taxpayers for coming.
Tubebaziza nnyo okujja abagenyi baffe.
My name is Sarah Chelangat, Commissioner, Domestic Tax.
Amanya Sarah Chelangat, nganze Commissioner wa Domestic Tax, gwe musolo ogw'omunda.
Today we are talking about rental tax and how individuals pay rental tax and the other non-individuals, which include companies, partnerships, trusts, associations.
Twogera ku musolo ogwa rental tax nga tutunuulira omuntu wa bulijjo bw'oba olina company bwe mba nga mwegasse mulina partnership ne ebibiina ebifaanana bwe bityo.
Now individuals pay tax for a year of income, and a year of income is 12 months.
Omuntu wa bulijjo, an individual, omuntu asasula omusolo gwa mwaka, ate ng'omwaka twogera ku myezi 12.
But the tax is simplified in terms of payment. The law allows an individual to pay that tax in installments of 4. Every 3 months, 25%, a quarter of it is paid every 3 months.
Naye ng'omusolo guno bagugonzaamu ogw'omwaka nti omuntu osobola okusasula omusolo mu bitundu 3 ng'omenyeemu omwaka. Mirundi 4 ng'omenyeemu omwaka emirundi 4 n'osasula obutundu 25 ku 100 buli myezi 3.
Yeah.
So buli myezi 3 osobola okusasula obutundu 25 ku 100 paka bw'omalayo omwaka yalibadde nga installment payment.
But it is also possible to pay your rental tax every month.
Naye nga tera osobola n'okusasula rental income tax yo buli mwezi.
As the landlord pays, you just pay, and you can use your phone to pay. You can use agent banking, you can use your bank.
Nga omupangisa bw'akusasula buli mwaka osobola okukozesa oyinza okusasulirawo omusolo ogwo buli mwezi ng'okozeseza mobile money, agency banking, engeri zonna ze tutaddewo okusobozesa okusasula omusolo.
Companies will pay their tax again for a year of income, but in 2 installments every 6 months.
Amakampuni omusolo ogw'omwaka tuba tugusuubira okusasule emirundi 2 mu mwaka gy'emyezi 6.
So that is how rental tax is paid. But you can even still deposit your tax every month. If your tenant pays you every month, you can choose, as you receive that money, you pay. As you receive, you pay. Yesterday, I was talking to somebody who was paying business income, and he was telling me, Sarah, I don't want to wait until the end of the year and I pay 9 million. As I receive this 1 million, I will pay 300,000 to URA, and then the 700 I know is my money.
Naye ng'olisobola okusasula rental income yo buli mwezi. Juzi nasanze customer yangambye nti nze saagala kulinda mwaka mulamba nsasule miliyoni 9. Zino sente nga bwe zijja bwe naafunayo miliyoni 1 nga nsasula, bwe nfunayo endala nga nsasula, nsobola okuba nga nsobola okubala amagoba gange.
Like for example, rental tax for an individual. If you earn, say, 1 million in a month, out of that 1 million, we remove 235. That is tax-free income. You don't tax that. So the 765 is what we tax. 12% of that is taxed. So you can, out of that, just remove 76,000, and that is what you pay to URA on a monthly. Then you do the reconciliation at the end of the year. But don't wait for URA to look for you. You pay slowly.
Nti bw'obanga ofuna miliyoni 1 nga rent omwezi, bw'oba okola ekibalo ojjako emitwalo 23 n'ekitundu, ezo zo tezisasula musolo. Kati ezisigaddewo emitwalo 76 n'ekitundu, ezo zo zisasula omusolo, era okwo kwe tujja obutundu 12 ku 100 n'obanga osasula omusolo. N'ekirungi n'okuba nti ofayiringa ritaani yo n'otalinda ffe URA kujja wuwo. kutuukirira.
For a company, the way the rental tax is computed, we cap expenses. And these expenses will include the actual expenses that you incur to generate this revenue, including the interest expense on your loans, and also the industrial building allowance that you get as an allowance, as a relief from this building. All those deductions are lumped up together, and the law allows you to claim 50%. In the event that you cannot exhaust the 50, you carry forward the balance to the following year of income. So it is really a timing issue, and that is how it is computed. Then the balance is taxed at 30%.
Bw'obanga oli company, okusokera ddala expenses kyotaddemu mu kizimbe kyo okugeneratinga rent ono, tukapinga kyotaddemu ze tuyita expenses. Naye nga mu kuzikapinga tutunuulira ze tuyita actual expense. Actual expenses ekintu kyotaddemu mu buliwo, nti nno nsasudde amasannyalaze, nti nsasudde ebyobukozi n'ebyo actual. Naye ne wabeerawo ne interest expenses. Jjukira nti bw'oba weewoze osasula amagoba n'ebintu ebifaanana bwe bityo, ezo nazo expense tukkiriza ozibala. Ne wabeerawo ne ze bayita industrial building allowances. Nti naye bino byonna tubigatta omulundi gumu ne bakapinga ku ebitundu 5 ku 100, okkirizibwa ku expensinga ebitundu 5 ku 100. Balance aba asigaddewo gw'otasobodde ku expensinga mu bitundu 5 ku 100, omukaringa over to the next payment period. Naye nti bwe kibanga the 30%?
So companies are taxed at 30%, and individuals are taxed at 12%.
Okay.
The reason why the individual rate is lower is because for individuals, the only deduction is that tax-free income which we remove, which is 2,820,000 per year or 235,000 per month.
So, bwe tuba tutunuulira omusolo gwa individual twagambye guli ku rate ya butundu 12 ku 100. Ogwo gwo basalako buli kimu nga togyemu expenses twala tugende. Naye amakampuni olw'okuba nti bakapinga expenses ku 50%, ebitundu 5 ku 100, rate kwe babalira omusolo ebeera 30%. Amakampuni rate ya 30%, omuntu wa bulijjo an individual rate ya butundu 12 ku 100. 12% for individual, 30% ku makampuni.
Thank you so much. Over to you, CG.
Thank you very much, CDT, Sarah, for that explanation. Omukuddamuko waliwo ebibuuzo byozeemu mu maaso, so kansuubire nti ababadde babuuzizza, you got the answers. For example, Mr. Tom Sange had asked the question, can you exempt ab'emizigo abafuna emitwalo 10 oba 2? Kati nga bw'owulidde Madam Sarah kyayogedde, I've already eteeka lyaba exempting adda. So bw'oba oli wano ntoyina emizigo gy'ojjamu emitwalo 23.5 okudda wansi, toyina okuwa omusolo. Si kugamba nti buli muzigo gumu, naye bw'oba ogamba nti ze nzija mu mizigo yange tegiyita mu mitwalo 23.5 buli mwezi, oba toyina okusasula omusolo gwonna. Gavumenti yagugyawo dda. Yeyo exemption yemu gye bawa bali abakola emirimu aba pay as you earn. Bw'oba ofuna nyingiza eyo towa musolo, era ne landlord towa musolo if your income is around there, and that's what she was explaining as an exemption. So katudde ku bibuuzo bya Mwami Samuel. Samuel talked about ledger reruns and causing an error. I want to admit that we've been having some challenges with our ledgers. Ekisookera ddala was the ledger accuracy coming from migration of one system to another. Ekyokubiri was the application of one of the laws, the order of recovery of tax, I think tax procedure code 38. Ekyokusatu is the structure of the database. So we have set up a team for ledger reconciliation. I liked the submission of one of the speakers who talked about one of the speakers in her submission, she mentioned that our ledgers sometimes have not been consistent. I'll come to that question later. Now, we have set up a team to reconcile ledgers. These are the ones to listen to your kind of complaints. If you think the ledger does not reflect what you know, because the taxpayer and the tax collector, we should have one view of the same ledger. It is the same ledger. So if you think you owe URA 10 million or URA owes you 10, it should be the same understanding you have and we have. So singa osanga nti ledger yo eyina enjawulo kyosanzewo kyanjawulo ku kyobadde osuubira, please approach us. And CDT, I want you to advise the easiest way to reach your rental team, because we have a whole manager working with about 60 people plus to make sure that we sort out ledgers. And in the new e-tax system where we are shifting, we will say bye-bye to the ledger confusion. Any changes on the ledger will not need a rerun. We shall all have a common understanding of our ledgers. But in the medium or short term, we have set a team to resolve ledger discrepancies. CDT quickly advise us on how to reach your ledger manager and also the process of doing this. You can as well speak about the process in refunds, because it was the next question, the delay.
Thank you, CG. We have a team that does ledger reconciliation, headed by the manager. I don't know if Christine is here. Yeah, Christine is here, and she sits in second floor, upper ground, just at the entrance. She has a team of 50 staff that work with her, and she is responsible for that ledger that you were complaining about. However, we also think that in less than a month, we should be having a problem fixed on these ledger issues that will make her work much more easier. Pade Ocheng is the manager for rental, so you can start with the manager rental to coordinate for you the ledger team. But in each of the stations that we have within Kampala, Mukono, and Entebbe, we have a rental person within those stations who can also support you and then communicate back to us at head office to support you with the reconciliation. Thank you so much.
Is there something you want to add on, Christine? Please speak to the ledgers, advise our taxpayers.
Mwebale nnyo okujja abataxpayer ffe abalungi leero. Thank you for coming, our dear taxpayers. What I can speak about the ledgers, one, we admit that the current design is not kyenyiza okunnyonnyola nti design oba face ya ledger gye tuyina mu kaseera kano nzibu ya kutegeera. Kuba engeri transactions ezijjamu, bw'oba toli nnyo accountant, omuntu wa bulijjo, kiyinza okuzibuwalira okumanya ebbanja lyo engeri gye lijjamu. Okay, let me repeat for him. I was saying that design yaffe gye tulina kati eya ledger nzibuzibumu okutegeera ku muntu wa bulijjo, kubanga ledger tugitwala nti yandibadde nga bank account yo, tiwoba osasula otaddeyo ssente olaba mangu nti ntaddeyo, bw'oba owithdrawinze nga kyebala mangu. naye design gye tulina kati ku muntu wa bulijjo ebadde nkalubumuko okutegeera.
We admit that the current design of our ledger is complex and not easily understood by the common person, our clients, because our expectation is that the ledger should be as simple as a bank account with details of what has been credited and debited. So we admit the complexity and challenges with our ledgers currently.
Kurensonga eyo, Uganda Revenue Authority egenda kukyusa design ya ledger eyo era kye kimu ku kintu kye tukolako mu kaseera kano.
Because of that, URA is going to change the design of the ledger to simplify it, and that's work that is currently ongoing.
N'ekibuuzo abasinga kye mubadde mubuuza mu kaseera kano, mumpe principal yange ngisasule sobole okubenefitinga kweno design gye tuleeta gye tusuubira okubawa obutasukka weeks 3 egenda kuba ng'ekiraga bulungi.
Indeed, many of our dear and esteemed taxpayers have been requesting for a distinction between their principal tax and interest and penalties, for them to be able to benefit from the waiver under Section 40D of the Tax Procedures Code. So the new design will be very simple with a clear distinction between principal and penalty, and that should be complete within the next 3 weeks.
Era kweno waiver omukulembeze w'eggwanga gye yaddiza eri abasasuzi b'omusolo egenda kuba bwekulaga nti ono yo principal atannaba kusasulwa ejja kulaga ne interest aliko atannasasula. Uganda Revenue Authority kyekoze egenda kuautomatinga waiver eyo egenda gifuula nti bw'osasula principal tolina kujja mu office kwegayira bambi mumpe waiver yange, wabula egenda kwekola automatically etooleko. Bw'osasula ekitundu era ne interest agenda kwetoolako mu kitundu. So design yaffe empya byonna byonna egenda kuba esobola obbiraga bulungi nnyo.
The design will be automated with a clear distinction between principal and penalties and interest, and the waiver will be automatic. So our esteemed clients will not be required to walk to the URA to get their waivers granted to them. The design will also automatically indicate the portion of principal that has been paid and the proportionate portion of interest and penalty that has been waived relative to what portion of principal has been paid.
N'akasembayo ensonga gye tubadde nayo nti lwaki balansi zange eza ledger zikyukakyuka. Ebadde ensonga nti ledger yaffe tetugiteekawo in terms of periods ti ekiseera mwolina okusasulira. Because webanga ya May, ti May tomusasudde n'akulako amagoba ng'amagoba ago olusiga emisinga ne periods endala. Ng'omuntu wa bulijjo tasobola kola ki kukiraba. N'agamba balance yange yakuze etya. Mweno design gye tuleeta ejja kuba esobola okulaga mangu nnyo kyono interest akuze ku bbanja lino eyitasasulibwa mu budde erimaze ennaku bweziti. Tinaawe eyo ne woba tozze osobola okukyebalira kijja kuba kiri very visible kiraba buli muntu yenna.
One of the biggest outcries has been around reruns of ledgers and changes in ledger balances. So the automation and the new system, the simplified one that we shall be delivering in the next 3 weeks, will be able to clearly indicate which portion, which payment has been tagged to which period, and which interest has been computed for which period against which there is outstanding tax, and it will be so simple that even a layman will be able to compute and interpret.
Era ledger yo newebanga erimu akamulumulu konna kubanga ebiseera ebisinga kyewulya kye bayita rerun. Tiwewa mulimu akamulumulu konna tunyiga button eringa ekola refresh neddamu neyeebala neekuwa balance kati since ezo details ebintu ebirimu tebibadde so visible for you bwe mubeera nga mwabaddemu double posting oba nga mulimu return ebadde tapostingiddwa ku return kizibu kuggwe okukola ki okukiraba so when we refresh we tunyiga rerun eyo ne tuteekamu eri return etaabaddemu ng'okanyagamba yiyi lwaki balance yange ekoze eki ekyuse kweno design empya engeri gye tugenda okubanga buli period tugiraga bulungi wena n'abeeramu akamulumulu konna kagenda kubeera nga kasobola okulabibwa buli muntu ng'era ogamba period yange eno nafayiringa omusolo gwa $5,000,000 lwaki ate wano bandaga 6 oba tutegeerekese so eno design empya egenda tuyamba okumalawo obusongasonga bwonna bwe tubadde neki ne ledger neweeva gye mwagala egenda kubeera automated kubanga buli muntu aqualifying ogifuna ali entitled tolina kujja neweegayirira Uganda Revenue Authority.
Thank you
so
you
much.
Christine, for that explanation. So let's move quickly. But Christine, I hope you confirmed that anybody who has trouble with ledger, they should approach you and your team, because that is your full-time work.
Yes.
Yeah. So omukyalo oyo mutuukirire oba mulina obuzibu ne ledger naye nga bw'annyonnyodde bulungi, we'll have a new system that will be free of these complaints. So ekibuuzo ekiddako kibadde ku industrial building allowances. I think CDT, you spoke about it. Capping of expenses. CDT, you may have to come back for emphasis. Naye tubawulira abaaye abagamba nti capping expenses is going to suffocate the real estate sector. But there is one lady who submitted and she said, I know where you're coming from. Where we are coming from is that without capping, which was in the old law, people were spending everything and they were not paying any taxes. And they would be completing one building as they start a new one. So there's a lot of real estate development in the city, but not reflecting any tax contribution. That is why I told you that we have just improved. You have just improved your contribution to 200 billion. 3 years ago, it was at 100 billion. So you've just doubled. So this measure is important. Yes, we want the real estate sector to develop, but you are the biggest players in the economy. You cannot continue developing without contributing tax. So the new law now caps expenses at 50%. It does not say you must recover everything in 1 year. If you don't recover in the first year, you can carry it forward to the next year and to the other year. But while you're earning income, please pay some taxes with that capping. Is that sufficient, or you want to add on? So that is the reason behind this. And it should not suffocate the sector. It should just encourage fair contribution of tax across. 40D, which is the waiver. I want us to understand this law. This law says that anybody who has an outstanding tax up to 30th of June, if they pay this principal tax by the 31st of December, all penalty and waiver, all penalty and interest will be waived. I think it is a very good law. It has come to give you relief. So I want to encourage you to take advantage of that law, because some of the interest and penalty is as much as the principal tax itself, especially for the big arrears. You find someone, he has a principal tax of 500 million, the interest and penalty is also 500. Please take advantage of this. The second section of this law says the waive of interest and penalty will be equivalent to the tax paid. For example, if you, out of the 500 million, you pay 200 million, it means the interest and principal that is on the 200 million that you have paid will be waived. That's what the second section of the law says, that the commissioner will waive interest and penalty pro rata according to the principal tax paid. So for any reason, if you cannot fully pay your principal tax to have 100% benefit, at least pay the fraction that you can and you benefit partially from that waiver. But this is an improvement from 38 TPC 38, which the COVID waiver. The COVID waiver came saying anybody who had arrears up to 30th June 2020, all penalty and interest was waived. Now that was good for COVID relief, but it encouraged non-compliance. So there are people who stayed in their homes, did nothing about their tax arrears, and they still benefited. Yet there are those who paid and benefited. So this law is very deliberate. It will only benefit those who make effort to clear their principal tax. And we should take advantage of it because it has a short window and we clear before 31st.
Totuwadde mu Luganda siji.
Kavunire mu bwangu in short words.
Omuntu yenna nga badde alina omusolo guli outstanding. Omusolo gwo gubeerako principal, omusolo gw'osasula naye nga gw'accumulatinze kukubaddeko amagoba ne interest ge bataddeko, the penalties ne interest. Bw'ogubanga omusolo gwo gubadde guli outstanding paka nga 3 June enewedde, bakugamba nti bakuwadde akaseera paka nga 31 December nti bw'osasulako principal tax yokka n'ogimalayo, amagoba ne interest byonna nabyo bijja genda. Ekyo kimu. So eyo waiver y'akaseera nti naye ate era bw'oba tosobodde kusasula principal tax yonna n'osasulako mu installment mu kimpatiya mpola mpola, era ne penalty ne interest eyo agamagoba gajja kendeera okusinziira ku principal gw'oba osasudde, eyo gye bayite prorata. So ezo enkola eyo twalibadde tugijjumbira.
Very good, thank you. Brenda asked audits that go back to the same period. CDT, let me answer this on your behalf. As good practice, going forward, URA will not be going back to periods already closed. Unless where there is additional information of you having concealed information or of having compromised our team that did the first audit. So there has to be a special reason which we will justify as why you want to go. But if you, without any justification, you see any person who says, I'm coming to cover 10 years that we already covered in the previous audit, please tell them, no, this is not the position of URA. And you can escalate to us. If we have reason to doubt your first audit, we will tell you this is the reason. You did not share with us this information, now we have it, because that's what the law allows us to do. So we will not wear you down with multiple audits over the same period. Documentation should be kept for how long? According to the law, Brenda, you are required to keep documents for businesses for 5 years. And if you have no, games you're playing with your tax returns, please go by that. But as I've mentioned, the law allows URA to go back even up to 10 years or more if it is an investigation, if we have information of fraud. So if you're a compliant taxpayer, don't worry. The law requires you to keep records for 5 years. If you're not compliant, you better keep for longer, because we'll come to look at the period beyond the 5. But I hope everyone in this room is compliant, or we'll choose to be compliant by the time we finish this engagement. So that is it. Non-responsiveness of URA, we take note of that and we apologize. Going forward, we'll try to be more responsive. As a matter of fact, we are opening up multiple channels of communication so that we can all respond and respond efficiently. One of the channels we have opened up is the contact center. This center runs from 8 o'clock to 11 p.m. If need be, we'll make it 24 hours. But for now, the volume of work just demands that we work at least for up to 11 p.m. Now, that is one channel you can use. You don't have to come to us, raise your issue. We have other channels of WhatsApp. We have other channels of escalating your complaints through our e-platforms. I want PCA to listen to this and substantiate. We are now more reachable. Because I want to relate this to the issue raised by my brother from Senana. His question was a bit ahead, saying, CG watuwe namba yo na yetu jikwata. Oluganda nsonyiwa, ne wandibadde gwe ng'oli mu kifo kyange, tosobola kukwata simu miliyoni emu olunaku. So eziyitawo ze nnyingi, essaawa zemaze wano sikwata simu. Nja kubaddira nga nvuddewo. So tutaddewo emikuto mingi gy'osobola okuyitamu kututuukirira ne tukola ku nsonga yo. So oyo omukulu wa communications kaababuulire channels eziriwo z'osobola kututuukira mu nso. Bw'onoonya CG n'otamufuna, gezaako omulala oba channel endala. Ate waliwo channels eziri transparent, w'osindika ffenna tulaba. So singa tofuna kuddibwamu, tujja kutegeera. Please, Bossa, add to that point.
Abagenyi baffe nti omulembe kati gwe tuliko mu Uganda Revenue Authority osobola otutuukirira wonna wooli, twanguyiza embeera y'otutuukirira. Mu channels ze tutaddewo okwanguyiza munnayuganda oba oyo yenna asasula omusolo, tusoose n'ennamba ez'obwereere ze tuyita eza toll free. Tusaba muzeeyunire. Ennamba zino ziri bbiri. Tulina contact center eyina ba agents 5 kasita okuba essaawa yonna ey'olunaku okuva ku makya paka midnight waliwo omuntu agenda okwanukula okukola ku nsonga yo, okutwala okwemuluguunyako mu ngeri yonna. Mukkirize ennamba nzibabuulire. Esooka eri note 8 note emu 7 note kwegamba 0800 emu 7 note. Eyokubiri eri note 8 note 2 emu 7 note nti eri 0800 2 emu 7 note. Ne tugenda mu maaso ne tugamba nti bannayuganda tukozesa nnyo WhatsApp. Tutaddewo teknologiya ne tuteekawo WhatsApp number. WhatsApp number eyo essaawa yonna kasita osindikako akagambo hi ku WhatsApp ng'omuntu akuddira ng'agamba nti mwami kimeze, oyagala tukuyambe tutya, oyagala tiini kusasula musolo ABCD ng'olondako oba oyagala ku engaginga agent. Ennamba gy'okoonako nga mutandika emboozi oba nga bakubulira. Ne oba ng'olina ky'obuuza, kyakusoma, kyakwemuluguunya, eyo WhatsApp ekola. Tusaba mugikozese. Tugitaddemu ensimbi nnyingi naye ate tulina n'abantu emabega waayo abasobola okukuyamba okusinziira ku unique problem gy'oba oyina. Ennamba eyo eri 0772 emu 4000. Ndoza ziweddeyo. 0772 emu 40 nezigwayo za 0. So eri 140,000. 0772 140,000. Enyamba ya WhatsApp nayo osobola gikozesa essaawa yonna bw'oyagadde. Abamanyi okukozesa internet abasobola tufunye emikutu gyaffe gyonna ne tugiteeka gye tuyita hybrid chat. Nti bw'oba gw'omanyi Twitter, gw'oba okusobola okukozesa Facebook, bw'oba osobola okukozesa LinkedIn egyo emikutu gyonna kasita ogibeerako n'oweereza aka message ndowooza mumanyi ke bayita direct message abamanyi obukozesa ffe hybrid chat yaffe esomba ebintu ebyo era ba agents ne babifuna buli agent ne bamuwa ekintu kyalina okwanukula kwegamba oyo olina tekinologiya tumutaddewo kwanguyiza abantu gobanga social media gwotambuza ng'omutambuza abantu abakozesa ebintu nga email tulina gye tuyita kati you are a touch point nti osobola okugenda kuli n'oteekamu okusaba kwo okwemulugunyakwo kati okwo twakutaddeko nti kulina n'obudde bwe tulina okumala okwanukula ensonga eyo nti bw'oteeka mu system URA touch point bagitwala ku muntu alina okikolako bw'ebezza ewange bampa ekiseera bwe tulina okikolerako bwe mba sikikozeeko mukama wange n'afuna notice so mukama wange asobola okumbuuza nti nga ndabye ebintu mu system by'otannakolako okukonna kulungiya kusobozesa abantu kuba nti basobola okufuna obuyambi wonna w'osobodde asobodde okutuukira ofiisi zaffe nga gw'ogamba njagala kwogera eri muntu ofiisi zaffe tuziina era osobola okugenda mu ofiisi ekuli okumpi n'oba ng'osobola okutuusa ensonga yo tugezezzaako nnyo okulaba nti tusobola okuteekawo emiwaatwa egy'ebbeeyi entono okusobozesa munnayuganda okuba nti asobola okuengaginga naffe ku nsonga yonna ne woogamba nti ogenda kugula mmotoka ngenda gigula bwe nti ku ssente bwe ziti ssente mmeka bw'oteeka mu whatsapp nga bakutandika okukolera ekibalo oba nga bakuwa calculator mw'osobola okukikolera tweyanziza nnyo tweyanzeege.
Thank you, Comrade Bosa. Can tuyite muno very quickly so that tusobole okuwulira ekiddako oba way forward. Ndaba abantu batandise okukoowakowa naye mugumiikirizeko katono katumalirize. Omwami Serunjogi asked about border borders is blocking amaduuka gaabwe. Mwami Serunjogi tusobola okukwegattako naye guno mulimu gwa KCCA. So tujja kwogera nabo ne batuyamba okukiriininga amaduuka omuntu aba omusolo n'asasula trading license ate aleme kubeera n'abablockinga bacustomers be okuyingira. But it's a bit out of scope for URA. But we can support you on that. Allowable expenses, babadde bakizeemu. Madam Samari asked about that IBD. Okubeera party ya 50 CDT akimaze kukiddamu. Stable law. Madam Samari njagala kukakasa nti kati eno rental income law eriwo yejja kubeerawo for some time. So pay your taxes. Don't worry that it will be changed again. It wasn't changed last year and it will not be changed for some time. But we will advise the Ministry of Finance on that matter. The next question from Flavia was on updating the URA TV, a very good point. Bosa, I think you've heard that. Make sure that all our material is up to date and we should not give people expired information. And she also appreciated the rental income team for being responsive. So kudos to the team, just carry on being more responsive. That is very good. Ledger reruns have been answered. ADR, let me ask the Commissioner Legal to speak about the ADR process. Stella, very briefly, so that we can conclude the...
Thank you. Good afternoon. And I want to join my colleagues in thanking you for heeding to our invitation to come and attend, and we have a meeting of minds. Now, ADR in full is alternative dispute resolution. It's one of the mechanisms that URA uses to encourage voluntary compliance, and this is how it works. Instead of going to courts of law, and for tax purposes, Tugenamu Tax Appeals Tribunal, there's a taker called the Tax Procedures Code that allows us to do tax ADR. So if the taxpayer has to go to the Tax Appeals Tribunal, I know Sasula 30% of the tax in dispute before they file their case in Tax Appeals Tribunal. However, ADR applies to the time
Thank you very much. Abayindoboza kumukategedde singa oba olina ebbanja ery'omusolo mu kifo ky'okugenda mu kooti ne tumala emyaka nga tulwana mu kooti, mujje wano tuyinawo windo ya ADR. Twogeragane tutuulizanye ng'abanansi, tubuulire nti kano wali tukalabye aba URA, an administrative assessment gye mwateekako teyali accurate. Bwe kiba ekyo tujja kukendeeza. Naye bwe kiba nti naawe wali tobyogedde byonna, kati weenenya n'olongoosamu mu kudeclaringako, then ne tukaanya omusolo ne tusasula. Kano akaseera ke tutandikiddemu ADR. Do you remember the figure of what we have collected through ADR?
It's from when we started, it's over 600 billion.
That was in 1 year. I think now it's over 1 trillion.
Yes, it should be over 1 trillion.
Yes.
And CG, you've also seen an increase in cases. Yes. We have almost 2 million cases that are falling in these categories.
Okay.
So just let's use this mechanism to help us.
1 trillion ey'omusolo gw'eggwanga ekwatidde eyo gye tuggyeeyo mu myaka gino ebiri egiyiseewo kumuyitira mu lino ekkubo erya ADR. So anybody who wants to settle amicably ajje ku ADR mu kifo ky'okugenda ku court ne tuluzinga more money to the lawyers. Okay, now very quickly I want to conclude the last part of the questions. Mr. Tom Sange asked about sensitization. Mukuru tutandise. Sensitization yine tandise atete tujja kuyimirira paka nga buli muntu yenna ategedde obligation ye ne right ye ku nsonga eno. Next part, cut off of how far back you go. Now, this is very, very important. You have not been paying taxes. Now you want to start, but where do you start? My advice to you, take advantage of what the law says. The law says that when URA is coming to audit you, unless we have information of fraud, we should look at 3 years, going not beyond 3 years. So, mukozese window eya voluntary disclosure. Because voluntary disclosure says that if you have not been paying tax the right way, and you choose to declare, to be honest with URA, make declarations, and any interest and penalty will be waived because you came out willingly to declare what URA did not know. So if you don't do that, and we come and audit, we will go back 3 years, but we will also charge penalty and interest, because 10 million that you should have paid in 2020, paying it in 2023 will compound interest over those 3 years. So my advice is, start doing the right thing and at least declare about 3 years backwards. Then we will have no incentive to come and audit you. Mr. Tumusange, are you here? You are the one who asked that question, but everybody, you can take that advice. Do voluntary disclosure, step at least 3 years, and come up to date and pay, and we move on. That way, you will avoid interest and penalty. That is my advice. He was asking for exemption that is already handled, 2 years exemption. That requires a change of law, and you can start asking for that. But as is now, the moment you start earning, you pay income tax. Mr. Mwanika brought a very good suggestion. He said, come and visit us in the divisions, and let's have this kind of meeting again. Ekyo mwami Mwanika tukiwulidde, njagala kukakasa ngu our next meeting will be smaller, because we have seen what it means to call everybody in Kampala. We apologized for calling everybody. It's an indicator of how little we know about your sector, unfortunately, but we learn. So what we are going to do going forward, we'll meet you by sectors. Maybe we'll first call arcade owners. Are there some arcade owners here? People of big commercial properties. Yes, I saw some, my sister there. Thank you so much for coming. Our next meeting, we can call you by groups and also by divisions, so that we speak about the specific challenges. Now it's a bit of a big meeting for us to address the specifics in detail. Another person asked about IFRIS and asking for permission to edit. Yes, that was your question. We take note of that. The IFRIS team is in the house. Hassan, do you want to give a quick response? In 1 or 2 seconds, please, come and answer that. But we take note of that concern and let the IFRIS manager speak about the possibility of a way out.
Basebo ne banyabo, tusanyuse nnyo okubalaba. Amannya gange nze Hassan Wasajja, tubeeyanziza nnyo okujja mu bungi bwe muti. So, Madam, you asked about editing the invoice. Yes, we take note, and we shall look into it. The only problem, oba obuzibu obukirimu, nti mulimu bannaffe abatali beerufu bulungi. Nga invoice bw'amala okugigaba, ng'ate adduka n'agenda n'agi-editinga oba n'akyusa. Naye nga kyakyusa kye kituufu, tekirinaako buzibu. So y'ensonga eyo eyatuleetera ne tugamba nti tetujja kukkiriza ku editinga invoice, naye katuyite mu mukutu ogw'okugaba credit note, nti ne bbaaya oba n'akuguzeeko asobole okumanya nti invoice eno ekyuse, era ensonga ezikyusiza is A, B and C. We also take note nti mu credit note mulimu delay. So we shall work on the delay such that we improve the experience. Thank you so much. Ndoza, Madam, I have responded. Thank you.
Thank you, Hassan, for that quick response. Ismail Biekwa, so I think I answered your questions. Welcome, Honorable. We answered the questions of Mr. Biekwaso, especially on taking calls. Then there was another question. Rental income, what is it about? CDT has explained that in detail. Assessments sent on phone, how do they come about? When are they made? And really they're asking how accurate are they? CDT want to answer this? Now, as she comes, ladies and gentlemen, I can explain the basic. When it is time for you to file your returns or to pay your taxes, be proactive. Do what you're supposed to do. Taxation is based on a principle of voluntary compliance. You voluntarily agree to declare and pay the right tax. But what creates a gap that warrants URA to start making administrative assessments? It is your time to file a return, you do not do that. It is your time to pay, you do not do that. Sometimes we even reach out and ask, why haven't you filed? Why haven't you paid? Can you please do so? And we don't, and you don't respond. So that non-response is what triggers the domestic taxes under SARA now to assess, because we have so many sources of information. We are able to see some transactions either from third-party sources or from your previous returns. So administratively, we come up with an estimate assessment. Many times, that is not accurate. But what has created the gap to walk that direction is your non-response. So I think the question should be returned to you. What causes you not to file or to pay on time that her team is forced to raise administrative assessments? What can we do to support you to file your returns and pay your taxes on time, which will be more accurate, which will be based on your self-declaration than allowing us to administratively assess? But Sarah, you may want to throw more light on that.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you, CG. In fact, like what CG says, CG, you have explained it very well. I don't have to add. But what we are just saying is that, like after this engagement today, if you go back and you realize, like for individuals who pay rental tax, you are supposed to pay a quarter of your tax for the year by Saturday, which is 30th September. If you want to pay that tax, if you plan to pay that tax, which is actually by law, you have to pay by 30th September, a quarter of your tax. You can just pay you can pay using the phone, you can pay by agent banking, you can come to any URA office and they give you that payment registration to pay. That is how the simplicity is coming about, because if you proactively engage us, then we don't have to look for you. Because when that SMS comes with an assessment that you don't understand, it disturbs the taxpayer. It disturbs you and also disturbs us. Because the way now we go to look at your past declarations or a similar taxpayer within your area paying a similar amount for a similar property, we use such information to determine your tax, and then we send you in a message. So those are the issues. Thank you, Sid.
So now I want to make some very general comments on what I consider to be our recommendations on the way forward. And then I will invite one or two very senior people who I see in the room to make some comments, because we really don't want to assume that all the questions came through. Boss has just informed me that the questions that came through online are quite many. And if we were to respond to each of them, it would take longer. So I want us to agree that for those many questions, we are going to publish the answers on our website. I asked if they had captured your emails, we would have sent to each one of you, but I'm told they only captured phone numbers. So maybe if we can put it on WhatsApp. Some people captured email. Okay. If you have shared your email, we will send it to you to your mails. But the public source where everyone will be able to see is going to be on our URA website. We have a section for questions and answers. We'll attempt to give all answers that we are not giving here. Ladies and gentlemen, I think there are some key recommendations we want to give for anybody who is living now. I don't want you to miss them. Number one, if you have a property from where you are earning an income and you are not registered for that income to pay rental tax, I appeal to you in the name of God and in the name of loving our country, Uganda, to do the right thing. Register and start paying tax. This answers the group that may not have been paying rental, even not knowing that they are supposed to. If you have been doing that for a period, like Mr. Tomsange asked, and you have not been doing right, take advantage of voluntary disclosure. Disclose voluntarily, declare your taxes, at least to the auditable period of 3 years, and let's move forward on a ground of truth. You will sleep soundly, not worried. Number three, if you have any tax arrears, take advantage of the window of tax exemption by paying principal and then the waiver on interest and penalty will apply. Take advantage of this law, which will expire at the end of December. Number three, start issuing genuine receipts. And this one goes to my particular section of friends of people who own commercial properties. You know the truth. That's why I was saying if the audience was smaller, would have detailed certain areas. But if you know that you've been giving small receipts, earning much more, please stop that practice. Because its time is over. Now the danger is, if we come and audit, and because by the time we come, it will be an investigative audit. It will not be an ordinary audit. It's not 3 years, no. It will be 10 years. The amount that you will be asked to pay, you may not afford. So why don't you do the right thing before we come? This is not a threat, because I have already audited 7 arcades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the figure of assessed tax is how much? Manager rental? 50 billion from 7 arcades. Now, if I'm going to audit all the arcades, then they may end with closure. So if we've done mistakes in the past, can we do the right thing going forward? Let's issue genuine receipts. If you're charging tenants 2 million, declare that. We will only take a small percentage of tax after all your expenses. But don't charge 2 million and give a receipt of 200,000 or 400,000 or nothing at all, because this has been the practice. Not for everyone, but for quite a number of property owners. So, going forward, let's join hands as citizens and do the right thing. Pay the right tax and pay it transparently. I was reading the Tenants and Landlords Act. It clearly recommends banks as the channel of payment for rent. Can we start receiving our rent through banks? Give your account, your tenant, your account number, and they pay. But I'm told we have small banks in our buildings where people pay, don't receive receipts. Now, those games, we know them, beginning to end. I've told you the meeting is a bit too wide. I don't want to go into the details. But let me use this opportunity to tell you that we know. And since we know, and as a nation, we have determined to be self-sufficient, we are not going to sell our souls and conscience because we must get donor support. Please join us on the right path of being a responsible citizen and paying the right tax and issuing receipts and getting payment through the bank as prescribed by the law. Cases that are under audit, like those arcades I've referred to, please take advantage of TCP 40D. Take advantage of settling your tax arrears, and we agree on an affordable payment plan. Otherwise, the window will pass, you'll pay both taxes and penalties and interest. These are some of the thoughts on a way forward. I want to take my seat and pick a few hands. I've seen some very senior people who have come to join us today. I don't want to take you for granted. Mr. Karunji is here. He was raising his hand. He wants to say something. I see senior engineer Nicholas. I don't know if you want to say something. And many others. I see Dr. Mlanga. You can give us some thoughts, especially on some of the proposals we are making on the way forward. But our final appeal is that let every citizen pay their fair share of tax. Our pledge to you, Uganda Revenue Authority, will serve you efficiently, honestly, transparently. Some of the things we have committed ourselves to is to deal with corruption. Nobody should extort a shilling from you when it is not going towards paying tax. That person will make you double pay. You will pay a bribe to sit over your offense today, and tomorrow you'll still pay the tax and penalty. So say no to corruption. We have said no to corruption as URA. Join us on that struggle. Number two is sensitization. We take responsibility. We have not explained to you, but the journey has started. We will not stop until everyone knows their responsibility as well as their obligation. Number three, where we have been lazy and not reaching out to you, we will come. We will find you in your places and we'll move forward. But we will also listen to you, and some of your input will help us either advise the ministry on policy side to serve you better or to be more responsive. I thank you very much for listening to me. I'll sit down and I'll ask the MC to give the first priority to the senior citizens in the room and so many very important old people who have spent this time with us. We don't take it for granted. It is your sign that you're committed to developing your country. And we are going to develop this country together when we cooperate rather than fight. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Tweyanziza nnyo tweyanzege ye Ssenkulu wa Uganda Revenue Authority Omwami John Musenguzi. With your permission, Commissioner General, I think we'll go in this order. We shall have Dr. Mlanga, Mr. Nicholas, Mwami Katongole, and Mr. Kalunji to give. So, Doctor. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Commissioner General, all protocol observed. I want to thank you and your team for giving us this opportunity to get education. I think most of the times why we do the wrong things on our side is lack of clarity on some of the issues that have been so clearly elucidated. My little aspect would be the IFRIS. IFRIS is still seen as a barrier, especially for the new entrants. I want to challenge URA to do more to support the new entrants in being able to do business while working on the IFRIS completion process. I think that will be a step in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Uncle Nicholas.
Thank you very much. I'm Biengoma, Mzee Biengoma, who has been in business for about 55 years now, but who is trying to close because of tax issues. And my counsel today is that I'm happy that the Commissioner General with his lieutenants were highly diplomatic, that they were confessing that they have issues in their ledger, which I think for us who know what has been happening in the URA, it seems like those who gave you the system, I hear it was Tata, left out on how to give us our demand notes every month. But since you go to church and you have some young men and ladies who go to the mosque, should repent that there was a problem so that the taxpayer know that you are going to church but you have repented. That the problem has not been with us, but with your system. Now, if it has been with your system, why do you have to go back 10 years to audit someone when the problem has been yours? Because if I owe the bank some money and I have already cleared my loan, they cannot come and say, our computer did not capture some charges. And then you come and ask me that I must pay. But now, it looks like it's a policy matter with the I don't know why they call it taxman. There are tax ladies here. A professor here goes to church so much. I think it is even in the Bible that a tax person is much feared. So Commissioner General, send researchers and you hear out how the public, the taxpayer, has big issues with your body. So that now, from there, we repent those who have failed to pay, and those on your side, you also know that you should have a cut-off point. Now, the final remark here is that the ledger lady here, she has a very big issue. Now, it's a bit of a mix. You say, we are going to reconcile. But the reconciliation, some taxpayers, it is going as far as 10 years behind. So, Commissioner General, why don't you agree with your Minister of Finance? And then you say, let's do only 3 years backward, like we have been suggesting. But rather than going back and bothering all these taxpayers and causing a lot of, I don't know, let me be diplomatic. The public is not happy with URA. So don't be part of history that at one time there was a Commissioner General and his team and they caused a lot of hemorrhage to the taxpayer. But the final one, these channels we have put up, why don't you have a desk where we can complain if somebody, officer, does not reply or react or revert on a query from a taxpayer? So that we know that a certain desk officer has failed to reply, to revert, and then is known in your system. Then the very last one is this. Why is it that you want all the money in time, but any claimant, it is like, is a problem, and can take even 6, 7 months, a year, with not either saying we are going to pay back or we are going to resolve our issue. So don't be one-sided, Commissioner General. I'm not lamenting, but I'm talking like a senior citizen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mwami Katongole.
Neyaza nnyo ssebo. Amannya Katongole Godfrey. Ndi musajja musuubuzi. Mu kibuga. Naye nina ensonga bbiri ze njagala okwogerako. Chairman Kampala Arcaders Traders Association Kata kibiina ky'abasuubuzi abakulira mu Arcade mu Kampala. Nalina ennyumba zange oba nina ennyumba zange naye after lockdown nakimanya nti ngenda kujja nsabibwe omusolo ogw'abapangisa naye nga mu nnyumba tebaalimu. Nze ne nziruka ne nnyanguwa okufayiringa returns. Kyanyamba nnyo kuba bwe najja okubanjibwa omusolo basanga nze olwedde namala dde okufayiringa ki returns. Waaliwo okwokusika omuguwa nga balaba obulimba oba oliawo bwenkoze naye ndasigala nnwanirira eddembe lyange. Namaliriza sisasudde ensimbi ndala okujjako ziri ze nakola ki ze nafayiringa. So nze ndowooza mwandiyambye nnyo oba mwalituyambye nnyo okutusomesa fe abantu ba bulijjo si balentoozi bokka naye n'abasuubuzi okumanya engeri gye tufayiringamu returns n'ebirala. So nsuubira nti emisomo kikulu nnyo. Abantu bangi waliwo n'abavudde wano nga balabanga ababamalira ebiseera naye nga obutamanya butuleetedde okugwa mu nsobi nnyingi n'okubbibwa. Eyo ensonga nkulu nnyo eya sensitization. Ensonga nga 2-3 wano nina kyensanyukidde era nze mbadde sikimanyi nti nsobola okusasula rental tax buli mwezi oba mu myezi 3. Kimenya nnyo ensimbi zino bw'ozeekuumako omwaka mulamba. Ye tena nti azenga azikuwa buli mwezi oba buli myezi 2 naye gwe n'olinda osasule omwaka muki mulamba oba oli awo kikaluba nnyo. Naye abagenda ku TVs radios okutusomesa tubasaba mwongeremu ekintu ekyamaki amaanyi okumanya nti buli mwezi nsobola okusasula ensimbi omusolo gwa rentals. Ensonga endala ensonga bagyogeddeko wano simanyi oba si gyobaddewo ensonga y'aba tax collectors abakambwe. Ekintu ekyo abantu bakikomplaininzeeko nnyo n'ewaffe. Ndowooza twandibadde ba mukwano wakati wange nze awa omusolo n'onajja okukola gutya okugusaba. So abantu abo abajja mu bifo byaffe gye basaba omusolo tusaba bongerewemu okusomesa bajje nga bamanyi nti bajja mu baganda baabwe. Ensonga endala mukama wange ensonga y'olulimi ku mikutu gyammwe oba ku platforms zammwe eza URA n'obutabo buno obukolebwa. Eriyo omuntu nga tayagala kumusomera naye ng'ate yandyetaaze okumanya. Oluzungu luno lulungi lugatta Uganda yonna naye mwandikyusizaamu ku nnimi ez'enjawulo Oluganda, Olunankole n'endala ba taxpayers okusobola okumanya obulungi omusolo guno engeri gye gubalibwamu kuba ebintu by'oluzungu bino ng'ate bya musolo bizibuwalira nnyo abantu. So kikulu nnyo okulaba nga mukyusakyusa mu nnimi ezo. Ensonga endala mukama wange nsuubira ku mulembe gwo enaakolebwa naye nga ekolebwa mu nsi endala. Oli bw'abanga abadde ajja nga akuwa omusolo bw'aba aweddemu nga tokyamulaba mu sisitimu yo omunoonyaako. Tuyina bazayi baffe bangi ne baganda baffe ekirungi ne mwami Kalungi mulabyeko wano ssebo nsanyusa okukulaba meeya. Omuntu ono bw'abanga aweddemu nga tokyamulaba nga yakuwanga omusolo mukyalireko omubuuzo waye wabaaki. Tusuubira URA esobola n'okuyamba abantu bano abagudde ne baddamu ne basituka n'oddamu n'ofuna omusolo eggwanga ne litambula. So kikulu nnyo okukyalira abantu bano botakyalaba mu sisitimu yo nga URA. Ensonga endala gy'okoonyeeko awo ndowooza yeddiira esembayo ensonga ya receipts. Ekirungi mwami Kalungi waali wano ate mukwano gwaffe ng'abasuubuzi. Era kyova olaba waali musajja mugagga nnyo oyo mu Kampala, mulimu n'abagagga baasinga naye nga banyooma nnyo meetings zino. Naye ng'ate kizibu nnyo eri eggwanga, era abagagga abo abatatera kubeera mu meetings zino batufuukidde ebizibu. Ndi landiroodi ate nga ndi mupangisa mu kibuga Kampala. Naye ensonga ya lisiiti eyo etumenya nnyo nga gye nkomezza. Ffe ng'abasuubuzi tufayiringa returns ku income tax, VAT n'ebirala. Naye bw'ojja n'onsaba ebitabo byange, amaduuka agalayise ennyo Mukama wange ananjulira, mu Kampala millions 2 oba million namba, ogenda okwekanga nga mu expenditure yange nga nze tenant, ensimbi zino zensasudde renti oba omusolo oba ensimbi ez'obupangisa ziba nnyingi nnyo ku expenditure gyenkola ki gyenkola. Kati bwe mba sifunye risiiti zino, ekitegeeza kigenda kunkaluubirira okufayiringa returns. So ensonga ya risiiti eyo tusaba mugikoleko naddala mu Central Business Area. Abakulu bano batwe risiiti ate nga za ifreeze, kwegamba naawe omanye nti ddala risiiti gye nkuwadde eri genuine si yakunasa. Kinyambeko okuba nga nfayiringa returns omuki nga nfayiringa returns yennyini. Kati akasembayo kano ngenda kwogera nga Munnayuganda. Kyemmanyi buli Munnayuganda akwatibwako ku ggwanga lye. Nze nina ekintu ekinnuma. Bwe nalwaza muto wange ntera nnyo okukyogera kuba kyannuma. Nalwaza muto wange ne mutwala mu ddwaliro ekiruddu nga mulwadde wa nsigo. Ekituufu ekiruddu ofunayo eddagala balita Lazax dikuyambako just kukendeeza buki buzimbu. Naye ebisigadde byonna ekiruddu liringanga ddwaliro lya private. Naye kiva kuki nti tewali musolo mu ggwanga. Tebakulimba nti waliwo ensi esobola okuyimirirawo n'etambuza emirimu gy'eggwanga n'etambuza bannansi nga bannansi tebawa muki tebawa musolo. Nze nfunye bingi nnyo mu kuwa omusolo nti ne bwe ngenda mu banka okwewola buli kyesaba nga nkirina ng'eraba omusolo ngwa bulungi, banka tesobola kukaluubiriza ng'eraba ow'omusolo. So wona atambuza documents zo nga ziraga nti ow'omusolo guli genuine, ogenda kubeera successful. Naye olwaleero bwe tubanga ebizimbe n'obubala 6 nga mu myaka 5 bibbye omusolo gwa bukadde 5 billions 5, ekitegeeza bona abala ebizimbe just 500 byokka awo mu Kampala Central Business Area tusussa mu bizimbe 1000, naye bona abala just ebizimbe 500 ogenda kubanga oyina 4.2 trillions. Ezo sente zigenda kutuyamba nnyo okukola enguudo, zigenda kutuyamba nnyo okusasula abasawo, zigenda kutuyamba nnyo okusasula abasomesa, eggwanga ligenda kutambula. Olwaleero abantu abasinga wano sebo sijje bawi ba musolo, naye abantu abatawa musolo ate be batali wano ng'oggyeko mwami ani ng'oggyeko Mr. Kalungi. Abantu abatawa musolo ba big investors, ba big landlords mu ggwanga lino be batali wano era be batabeera mu meetings zino, naye ate bano abazze wano era be basasula omusolo, ate ogenda okwekanga nga basasulidde bali abataguwa. Kitegeeza ki? Buli Munnayuganda wulira ng'olumirwa ku lwa muganda wo, wulira ng'olumirwa ku lwa mukwano gwo, osobola okuwa omusolo, osobola okutambula n'emikisa n'ofuna n'ogaggawala. Tewali bakulimba nti omusolo gugenda kukwavuwaza. Sebo sijje kino ze nkusaba busabi, Fenga sijja okukozesa ekyenfuna naye fenga ab'enfuna entono tukirabye nga tusasulidde nnyo ab'enfuna ennene omusolo. Tusaba ab'enfuna ennene bwe banaawa omusolo oguli genuine naffe tugenda kuyambibwa okuwa omusolo omutono. Oba oliawo tusasula omusolo mungi kubanga waliwo be tusasulira. Bwe banaatandika okwesasulira oba oliawo n'ogwaffe gwe tukaaba gunaasalibwako. Abantu abafulumye wano bazze nga balowooza nti oba oliawo omusolo gunaasalibwako ekibaleese wano kubasalira ku musolo. Naye bali nga bakyabba omusolo omuntu omu nabba trillions 5 trillions 50. Okitege so abantu bano babere bakwatibweko bafune omutima ogw'obuntu. Oyo omuntu asinga nekkonda ayingira n'akuba omuntu akabazzi. So tusaba mu ligimu yeeno okolewo ekyenjawulo ekyalema. Nze kusabira mwoyo omutukuvu akubeere kama b'omukisa.
Tweyanza nnyo tweyanzege. Tubadde tusaba tukomekereze ne mwami Kalungi abeeko ensonga zasengeka.
Wewale nnyo ssebo MC okumpa akakisa kano. Ssebo sijje awamu ne ba staff aba Uganda Revenue Authority bannayuganda mwenna abasasula omusolo amannya n'eddoboozi Kalungi Kirumira. Ndi omu ku badevelopa mu kibuga ekikulu era nga ssebo ffe twatandika omulimu ogw'okukulaakulanya ekibuga. Ssebo ffenna bannayuganda kitukakatako okusasula omusolo mu ggwanga si kibonerezo. Tuteekwa buteekwa okukikola tufune services. Naye twagala okulaba tusasula omusolo omutuufu awatali harassment oba kukakibwa. Tukomplayinga naddala ze kampuni yange buli mwezi nkola returns, VAT, rento n'ebirala. Naye ssebo omala okufayiringa returns ate basajja bo ne bakomawo ne bakuharasinga ne basindika assessments endala ku mutimbagano gya email nga bakubanja omusolo gw'otomanyi na gye guba guvudde. Twandyagadde nti omuntu akkirizibwe aweeyo ebitabo bye alaba obu deductions zitunulwemu. Era nze ssebo ku nsonga eyo olw'okuba nti baali bahalasinga ekitongole nakitwala mu taati ne neekubira enduulu mu tax tribunal. Abakungu bo bwe baalaba nga kye babadde bakola kikyamu ne tukola consent judgment before the TAT ne tukkiriziganya nti they should accept my books of accounts and look into my allowable deductions. To my surprise, we appointed an auditor. Nga batugamba nti we should go back to the years where we even received the certificates of compliance from Uganda Revenue Authority. Those periods were audited, and the URA, if these documents are here, gave me certificate of compliance. Now, other team comes on board, tells you again, go back 2017, 2022, you must pay 5 billion. As a result of this, I complied and I appointed an auditor. Before the auditor hands in a report, I was in America. The people in my office were calling me that the army has stormed my factory, taking away everything, beating up my staff, impounding my trucks, impounding my equipments, spares, even with guns, kanyama, everybody. We have got videos which we can prove people in the army uniform. That is abnormal. Why should you come into my premises as if it is a war over taxes? These equipments, Mr. CJ, are meant to implement a project which was financed by Minister of Finance. I have got an investment license over the same. All formalities have been approved. KCCA approved. NEMA approved. We got loans from China. The project is $70 million. We got loans from DFC Bank. This is an implementation stage, but you have crippled us, putting the equipment here in your yard. And we have got nobody to talk to. As a result of this, we are now going back into High Court for breach of lawful orders by your officers, which is again going to cost the taxpayers money in the form of damages, interests accrued from these bank loans, which we have here in the file, and you can look at them. The project is $70 million. Why not someone be patient and wait for my books of accounts as per the consent judgment, and then you evaluate my allowable deductions. If you prove that they are not genuine, then you give me my tax obligation, which I'm willing to comply with. Therefore, my appeal is that the organization should be cooperative to the taxpayers. We are willing to comply, whatever you have talked about here, though I came in very late. Personally now, I'm giving IFRS receipts to all my tenants. I have started that. So, using force and fighting with us is not going to be the solution, because now such a project, it is going to stay in Uganda beyond my lifetime. But you have crippled me by taking the equipments. You will generate revenue for over 100 years. I'm now an aged, middle-aged man. Maybe if God allows me another 20 years, I will depart. But this project will remain in Uganda, and you will collect billions and trillions out of it. But because your staff are short-sighted, they don't want it to go ahead. They have crippled me. I thank you so much for calling this meeting, because that's the only way you will reach down to the taxpayer and hear the challenges they are facing. And I want you to keep it up for God and my country.
Thank you.
Tweyanzege basebo ne banyabo ba senior leaders baffe n'ebirungi nabyo bituukako ekkomo. Tubadde twagala Senkulu abenga awumbawumba tusobole okuba nti nno tubata. Mr. John.
Thank you very much. Thank you, our dear valued taxpayers. I see a gentleman who has persistently been putting up a hand. Is it a very burning issue that it cannot wait? Because we want to conclude. Take him that mic, if he can say it in a minute. He can speak as I make my closing remarks. You stand up so that they see you and they give you the mic.
Thank you for the opportunity. I've been raising my hand while sitting outside, and I was not given a chance to say something.
Sorry, you can say it now.
That's why I moved inside here. Mine is a majority of us landlords in generally.
That microphone does not seem to be on. Huh?
Oh, I was saying a majority of us landlords didn't do accounts, or even didn't even reach P7. So what happens is that we employ auditors to work on our books and submit accounts. But what happens is that when URA comes to audit, they find that there is some tax that is supposed to be paid. And between URA and the auditors, we sit and agree that genuinely there is tax that has been discovered to be paid. We accept to pay. But now, This is tax which has come way back. We are now in this year, and it becomes money which is payable, and you are required to pay that money the same time. Remember, in your cash flows, you even forgot about that money, but it's something that has just been discovered. You are not even denying to pay. I am requesting to you that this money shouldn't be taxed, but they should not charge interest on that kind of money. Because as lay people, we don't know accounts. And on the other hand, I don't know whether URA regulates the auditors. Because those auditors, I believe they are licensed by Uganda Revenue Authority. And we expect that whatever information that they submit to URA should be final. If there are issues, then they should not bring to our lay people like us who own the buildings. Correct. And then secondly, so I'm requesting that at least URA should not charge interest or penalties on that money, because, like I've said, we recruited people who are given licenses by URA, I believe so, to do accounts. Secondly, we can also do a voluntary, like you said, if you have any tax that you know that you have, please voluntarily bring it to URA. But the moment you bring it out to URA, the next minute it becomes what? It becomes due. They want you to pay. The next week you find an agency notice. At least URA should allow us to sit with them, give us time, because that money is not there. Give us time and we pay that money in an agreed manner. Because after we have entered into an MOU, it is supposed to be paid according to the agreement that we have made, other than making an enforcement. So that was one of my concerns. There is a very great influence CD about to URA today, but we need more. It is short-lived. It is this discussion, oh, are you going to get next week? Next week you cannot get that money. We need to sit and agree and let us pay that money and clean up our accounts. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Mr. Ishagi Stanislas from Forest Mall.
Mr.
Ishagi Stanislas.
Thank you, Mr. Ishad. Thank you for those good points. We would have missed them if you had not spoken. These are well captured. Maybe I start in the reverse order to make some comments. Starting with your comments, sir, well taken. Tax agents, we regulate them, and every year we publish those that have gone through our vetting process. So if there is any tax agent who misleads you and causes you, to pay taxes because they had not properly done their job, register with us your complaint, and we will deny them the opportunity to be shown on our website as agents who are qualified to serve. And of course, if you don't have one, you can read on our website and see the recommended professional agents. But it's a challenge. We have a number of agents who have misled taxpayers and have caused them to pay a lot of taxes unduly. Interest and penalties, yes, as I've already mentioned, 2 routes will help you leave those: voluntary disclosure and payment of principal taxes on arrears. Short of that, these are statutory. They are in the law, and the CG has no discretion to waive, neither does anybody. It's Parliament, on recommendation of the Minister of Finance, who can ask for that. So I think let's take advantage of the existing laws. Payment in installments, we can do it. It's part of URA's, it's one of the things that is within our powers to do. It's an administrative matter, So we will sign with you MOUs and we shall respect them. Anybody who agencies you when you have not defaulted on an MOU is out of order, and raise it as a case of discipline, we will handle it. And I think this ties into the question by Engineer Byengoma on where to take disciplinary issues. We have a whole division now of tax compliance headed by an AC. It is supposed to handle issues of discipline. But we have also introduced a system of performance management, and it relies on information from the URA platform where people report work and it's not done. So we shall hold officers and senior officers and all levels of managers accountable for tasks that they receive and they don't conclude. So delays will be punished out of the performance management that we have introduced. But also we have a complaints desk to deal with staff discipline. As we build capacity, we will create more desks for quality assurance and so on and so forth. But these are things that take time and we cannot do them overnight. But we are doing a structural review which should be ready by end of this year, calendar year. We'll have some new divisions to deal with some of the gaps that we still have. So I encourage you to report these on our platforms that are available today. Very quickly, Mr. Karunji, I've heard about your case. I think it is a specific case that we can discuss one-on-one. We will listen to you again. URA, I think I spoke about this before you came in. It is not even our preferred way to use force anywhere. And I explained what circumstances lead us to use force, including tax investigations. Where we get wind of some wrongdoing that is deliberate, that's when we send those armed people, and that's when we seize record. But it's not our preferred choice, and we will only do it when we cannot avoid it. But I'm ready to listen to your case and to see how we can amicably move so that we don't lock that important project to move forward. The rest of the comments from Mr. Katongore, we appreciate them. I think he made some very fundamental recommendations. I want to appreciate you, the chair of CATA. There is no doubt about it. Receipts are very, very important. And as URA, we are going to insist on receipts. Thank you, Mr. Karunji, for issuing IFRIS receipts. Take this message to your colleagues, the big landlords. Let them issue IFRIS receipts. Let them stop issuing bill receipts, numberless receipts without any figure on them, without any period on them. That game, they've played it for rather too long. Now it's time to play straight. So we will be engaging them. I have seen most of them have not come here, but just help us tell them that we have the information and we are ready to go into action. But we don't want to start by fighting. At the beginning, someone gave us an advice: separate us. Separate the compliant taxpayers from the non-compliant. So this engagement is to separate the sheep from the Bible is very clear. It is the sheep from the wolves. Because the sheep will say, we are right to do the right thing going forward. And we don't have to put up any fight. But the wolves will want to masquerade as sheep, and then they start playing games. Honestly, time for games is over. We should be straight and pay the right tax. So I want to appeal to everybody who has been issuing those small notes to stop it and issue IFRIS receipts and declare the right income and pay the right tax, because that will help sort out. Engineer, I had already mentioned the issue of compliance. The issue of refunds, we receive it. It's a justified comment. We've been having some requirement, and it is still there by law, to audit before we refund. So some of the delays are from the audit itself, and other delays could be because of prioritization of refund budget, which is limited. But we are working on both. And when I hear these complaints, I want to get the perspective What has it been? What is it now? Because I think before, some refunds were delayed for years. Now, probably the longest refunds are in months. Continuous improvement, we will get to a point where we refund instantly, especially for people who have embraced IFRIS. I think anybody who files an IFRIS return is entitled to almost instant refund because we need to do an audit. We already know your sales, we know your expenditures, then why can't we refund you promptly? I think that is work that will take two sides to cooperate, but URA commits to improve in this area. Ledger issues, long discussion, work is going on. Ledger conflict will be history because we are changing the platform and we are also committed to resolve the manual challenges. Now, sometimes why the ledger reconciliation goes back for years, I don't think it is so much to audit. Probably, many times, is to pick the perspective. Because at 3 years, if you find a figure of 1 billion carried forward, you need to know its history. How did it come? So we can have a technical discussion around that, but it's not our wish to reconcile the ledgers from 10 years ago. Maybe only to pick the historical perspective to understand how that was carried forward. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to once again thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I want to ask the URA people to clap for our valued taxpayers for making this time. Asante sana. Thank you for dedicating your evening, the whole afternoon, to speaking to us. Thank you for enduring this long session. We don't take this for granted. We appreciate you. It is a landmark in the journey of working together amicably, in peace, and joining hands to develop our nation. We will have further engagements with smaller groups so that we detail the issues that affect particular groups. But when we leave here, let's start doing the right thing. URA will start doing the right thing by treating you well. We took care of all those complaints about our harshness and many other things. We'll do right. But also do right by starting to declare the right taxes. This is the end of the first quarter. A lot of rental income tax is due by 30th of this month of September. Go and file your returns, make the payments, and let's develop Uganda together. I thank you very much. I wish you a good evening.
Bassebo ne bannyabo tufune national anthem tuggalewo olukiiko luno.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tulilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Tweyanzege mwebale kubeera bagenyi balungi era nga tujja kusaba Commissioner General bw'oba ofulumako waliwo abadde basuubira okufunayo ka group picture. I think space tugirina wabweru. Tujja kutegeeza abagenyi baffe nti tulina service centers omuntu ensonga zonna ze tubadde tuwogerako wano. Tulina service center eri e Nateete
ekyebando
The children are going to school for free. Roads have been constructed. Ebyobulimi bitutumuse obutale
ne Kampala
kusasula omusolo ne tukulaakulanya eggwanga. The children are going to school for free. Roads have been constructed. Ebyobulimi bitutumuse obutale
okuba nti tubatuukirira
abakyala tebakyazaalira mu mbeera mbi
tugenda kufulumya puroguramu eyo nga tujja kuba tubategeeza okutuukirira abo ab'emizigo ababizinesi ab'ebibangirizi tugenda kukola puroguramu ate tutamye ensonga zino zennyini n'enzigala zonna era si kiseera kya kulondoola naye kuwandiisaganya magezi engeri puroguramu eyo ejja kufulumna puroguramu etambula blocks ez'abasuubuzi kwabo abasuubuzi abakozi ebyamaguzi bakola buli bibuuzo byonna abakutuwazi baffe babikapitalize tugenda kukola tugenda kuteeka ku mukutu gwaffe ogwa internet naye ate era nga eyokusomesa nga biddibwamu okusokeratunaaba
paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
tusaba mutusonyiwe enamba twabadde tetuyikiridde naye ng'enteekateeka esobola okulungiwako esobola okuimpuvinga nga tugenda mu maaso
The children are going to school for free. Roads have been constructed. Ebyobulimi bitutumuse obutale abakyala tebakyazaalira mu mbeera mbi ng'eyedda. We have electricity. Businesses are being supported. Uganda Airlines ekomyewo. I'm proud to be Uganda. Celebrate you, oh, we celebrate you.
abamawulire abaliwo abagala ka interview tubamanya ekifaananyi esimba obulungi amawulire tubeebaza
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority.
Now, for non-individuals, the companies, the retirement benefit schemes and the like, the formula is a little different.
How is it?
For non-individuals, we look at their gross rental income and then we allow them up to 50% of that gross rental income to cater for expenses that have been incurred in generating this income. And then the difference of 50% is taxed at a rate of 30%.
30% of the 50%.
Of the 50%.
Don't you think it is kind of like unfair? Because we've had landlords at times when they're complaining, tenants don't pay, tenants run out of their buildings, and yeah, as Ura, you are estimating that everyone, like every tenant, pays their rent on time.
Yeah. Now, the effects of premises being vacant are taken care of in arriving at what I call the gross rental income. If I can give an example, if you can allow me to give a computational example of, let's say, someone who has rental units in Banda. They have 5 units, and from each unit, they charge rent of 500,000 per month. So if these units are fully occupied throughout the 12 months period, it means that every month they're generating 2.5 million from the 5 units, and in a year they will have generated 2.5 times 12, which is 30 million. Okay?
Yeah,
that's 30 million. So that's the gross rental income. But there are instances where some of the units are not occupied during that 12 months period. Now, that will be taken into account in arriving at the gross rental income. So if, for instance, one of the units was occupied for only 6 months, we will get the 500,000 times 12 for the 4 units, and then for this 5th unit that was occupied for only 6 months, the gross rental income from it will be the 500,000 times only 6 months. So you'll find that the gross rental income for a landlord whose units are not fully occupied will be lower.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.